W239BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Ambers. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
They've told me in the past in my career that if you take an extended amount of time off, it's like riding a bike when you come back into the studio. And we're going to test that theory this afternoon in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia.
It feels like, okay, did you catch everything in the world of sports? Because I've been here. We've done a show, though, once in the last 2 weeks. Hey, but some of it, mind you, was work-related.
Yeah.
You have other responsibilities.
Yeah.
Last week was not work-related.
No, last week was a short week with the holiday and winter break, and me and my daughter doing 3 different beaches in 3 different days down in Florida, while Western New York was absolutely getting obliterated. And I actually felt kind of guilty. I even reminded myself, I'm like, don't be the guy that posts pictures of the sunset or the guy that, takes pictures, selfies on the beach or any of that stuff. While all of the people that I truly care about, are getting buried by snow every single day, including my wife and my oldest daughter, who did not accompany my youngest daughter and I on this quest to Florida. And so I did feel a little bit guilty. And I have friends who are like, don't feel guilty, man. Everybody makes their choices. You chose correctly. You got out of there and you got to the sun. You did what you needed to do.
Dude, I was wondering, though, as I'm blowing out my driveway, I'm like, oh, this is really nasty. Must be really kind of, worse up closer to the lake. Everybody, oh, no. And I'm thinking, your neighborhood Goombas, are they going to cover for you? Do you have somebody that can go plow your driveway? How is this all going to work?
If I was smart in my pre-planning of knowing that I was going to be gone for a week during the worst week of weather that we've had all season, I would have had somebody in the neighborhood plow my driveway while I was gone. I didn't make those arrangements. So I have to walk my wife, Sandy, through how to start the snowblower, how to run the snowblower, and God bless her, she was out there running that snowblower all last week. We got back into town late on Friday night, and I looked at the driveway. I'm like, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty impressed that she kept up with it. There's ice, but there wasn't a ton of ice. I mean, we're not looking at blacktop here. You're not eating off the driveway, but she did a good job of maintaining it. And, which, again, I kind of feel guilty about.
Well, she posted the video, and I'm thinking, okay, I work in this business. Is this content, or is this my husband's going to see this and feel really, really bad?
Well, I told her I feel really, really bad. I'm like, I feel bad that, we're counting how many beaches we're going to visit while we're, on the Gulf Coast of Florida. When she's counting how many inches of snow she's shoveling on a daily basis. Because it was relentless last week, if I'm not mistaken. It sounded like it snowed pretty much every day last week.
Yeah, and it was cold. It was cold. It was cold on top of it. So today feels fantastic. Might as well be Florida, Danger. I don't care. Sun's not out here downtown. I don't care. I wish we were doing it outside today. Good to have you back.
Good to be back in the sports bar. We're good. We're glad to have you along with us as well at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We've got the stream up. You can watch us on YouTube at The Fan Rochester on YouTube, our channel there. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment and engage with us there. We love engaging with you on YouTube, also on X at The Fan Rochester, and we sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device. When you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, part of being kind of out of pocket and off the grid for most of last week, when I say I was off the grid, I felt like I was literally off the grid. I wasn't checking my phone. I wasn't really paying a ton of attention to scores. Now, I know that the Four Nations tournament, when last we spoke, we were kind of chuckling about the idea that the Four Nations tournament is a nice gimmick that the NHL has put together here to kind of try and compete with the Olympics. We were wrong.
We were dead wrong on that. Shame on us. We should have known hockey players are wired differently. And No, we're not going to mix, outside world with sports, but that also played part of it too. Hey, your anthem's getting booed. It's going to serve as a match, and I'm calling the RIT game with Brayton Wilson.
Yeah.
Because your brother-in-law wasn't available, and he's like, look at this. Go to the break. Like, what is this? 3 fights in the first 9 seconds?
It was fantastic. I was watching it from a plane.
Yeah.
I was flying to Tampa, and I'm pulling this up on my phone, and I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, my God, this is better than anybody could have imagined. And isn't it funny that that's kind of what you need to get some eyeballs? You need a villain. You need a villain. You need some violence. This is kind of what I think, demand as a sports society. We want rivalries.
That's exactly. So that was one take we had last week. Fates through Catalana. Like in the NBA, do you have any hatred? Like hatred, I'm not talking like real hatred, but like hatred for another team. You do, Danger. If I say, man, those Green Bay Packers, we're a great fan. Yeah. Do we have that in the NBA? Do we have it in baseball even anymore? Like in hockey, here was like, oh, this feels
right.
Like, let's get after it.
And you could go back to, the hockey of the late 90s, early 2000s, when you had those rivalries between the Avalanche and the Red Wings, and you had just some really, the Red Wings and the Blackhawks, you had some really, really nasty rivalries.
Oh my gosh, I just watched the video last night to make myself feel better. The Sen Sabres fight.
Of course.
Yeah, that's like when emotions are running high. And boy, we had a really interesting show Friday, Danger, and it was really cool because, look, you're always welcome to join us, but man, it was just a lot of contributions from callers just talking about how they missed those days of the NBA. And it really changed with LeBron James teaming up. And, hey, we're in this, and it's a business, and we're going to make some money. And you don't have that. We really hate this team like the Bulls and the Pistons and the Celtics and the Lakers against everybody.
Yeah. You need those. Sports needs rivalries. Sports needs a villain. And I think you also need some violence. I think you need, I think that the 3 fights in the first 9 seconds got everybody's attention. If it wasn't for the booing of the anthems, that got your attention. That had everybody talking, and it served up a great final on Thursday. And it didn't go Team USA's way, and I have a feeling that might actually hurt the NHL a little bit, because it feels like for as much talk was happening around that final, as soon as it was over and it didn't go Team USA's way, I could almost hear hockey, people falling off back off the bandwagon. Like, okay, I'm not really. You wake me up when this happens again.
Well, I mean, Danger. Like, you didn't have anything the next day. We're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So that's how quickly things move in the world of sport. I mean, when it comes back around, we just have to look this bigger picture. When we see this in the Olympics next year. Okay. And the plan going forward is maybe it's 4 nations, maybe it's 5, whatever it is, every other year. So once every 4 years, you're going to have the Olympics. Okay. And then once every 4 years, separated by 2, is going to be this 4 nations tournament.
Now, I will say this. I don't expect to see at the Olympics what we saw in the 4 nations. I think the NHL kind of gasses these guys a little bit, and you get that added layer of intensity. The games matter in the Olympics, and you're playing for gold, and you're playing for your country as well. I think that matters, but I don't think you're going to see the level of intensity that you saw between Team USA and Team Canada in the 4 nations. I might be wrong on that. Specifically, I'm talking about the violence and the intensity and the fighting and everything.
The violence, the intensity, the fighting, and then somebody changing the lyrics to an anthem, like just because, like it was everything that. All right, we're all on edge with this. Let's watch a hockey game.
But to the NHL's credit, they recognize we are a made-for-TV product, like the NFL has done for years. We are a made-for-TV product. Let's serve up the most entertaining product we can. And as much as they can say they want to get fighting out of the game, hey, that was what drew everybody into the game. Oh my God, not 1, not 2, but 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the game. Who's not glued to that? Who doesn't want to see that? Well, the NHL typically would say we don't want to see that in the game, but in this case, it served them well. And they got it right, while the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball, they don't know exactly what to do with their biggest names, their biggest stars.
No, the NFL, just like, it's not even a game anymore. It's a, hey, we're going to, charge Disney here for this weekend in between the championship game and the Super Bowl, and you're going to watch guys doing crazy little stunts, okay? And like dizzy sticks, it might as well
Cornhole.
be. Yeah,
hey.
yeah, exactly. The NBA, maybe if the NBA goes to, but they tried this already, like U.S. versus the world. Like the players, throw the players more money. They're just not going to care. They should probably do away with that. Baseball's interesting when you get to the Olympics, because if I had to do a parallel, like, okay, how did we miss on this? Same thing from 2 years ago with the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
You and I were like, and then, oh, wait a second, there's something here. These games, the crowds are into it. That was something. Well, 2008 Olympics danger. Like, are we going to have baseball shutting down for 2 weeks? I don't see that.
Well, that was really, the Four Nations tournament was really like the only sports I kind of consumed while I was away. Nothing else really got my attention or grabbed any headlines. I know that we've got the NFL scouting combine getting underway in Indianapolis this week, and we're certainly going to spend plenty of time talking about that. In fact, later on this afternoon, we'll go to Indy and we'll check in with our buddy Alex Brasky, the Batavia Daily News and Bills Digest. We're going to hear from Sean McDermott this afternoon as well.
Yeah, so Alex is out in Indy, and this is the day where everybody kind of gets in, and because McDermott's part of the competition committee, he's like one of the first one out. So he's just going to get out. All these coaches and GMs will do their media thing. I learned today on One Bills Live that McDermott will also talk to the guys tomorrow on the show. So he's out there kind of, and it's a different setting. But as I will say this, it's scheduled at 4 McDermott to talk today. I'm just going to call him Dr. Sean McDermott. Because Dr. Sean McDermott, sometimes we'll see at 4, and sometimes they'll see at 4:25.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Not the same.
No, whenever Dr. McDermott is done speaking with the media, then we'll talk to Alex Brasky. So Alex Brasky maybe at 4:25, maybe at 5 p.m. I'm not sure, but we'll be fluid with that. That's coming up in the next hour.
And I think we'll do our part to try and get you some of that audio from Sean McDermott from Indianapolis as well. We'll try and share that with you this afternoon here in the Sports Bar. To go back to hockey, from Noted Hockey, Joe Yurden, our buddy, stops by at 3:25, not just to talk about the aftermath here of Four Nations with the NHL getting back underway this weekend. And with Sabres' 5 first-period goals against the Rangers. Can we get the Rangers on the schedule the rest of the way out so we can actually make the postseason? And what about these first place, not just first place Rochester Americans, best record in the AHL?
Best record in the American Hockey League. They're tearing teams apart. I mean, my gosh, when do they officially clinch? I mean, do they officially clinch by St. Patrick's Day a playoff spot? It might be before then. They're home Wednesday, and then they're going to hit the road for a couple weeks. So we'll talk tomorrow to head coach Mike Leone here. But from the Amherst game yesterday or on Saturday, Danger, this was, I don't know if you caught this. So it's been a few years since they did a teddy bear toss, and I love these, because it gets everybody kind of involved. Kind of a kids' day sort of event when you're doing a teddy bear toss. And for the first time since 2011, wouldn't you know, the Amherst not only don't score in regulation, we have our first game in 14 years of the Blue Cross Arena that does not end with a goal. So we go to the shootout, still tied at 0. As much as the PA announcer said, please hold your teddy bear until we're done, Helenius scores in round 4 to put the Amherst up 1-0. And then teddy bears come on the ice, and the game's not over.
We gotta slow it down.
We got to clean it up.
Yeah.
Levi makes the next save, and the Amherst send everybody.
By the
home
way,
empty.
Levi has been spectacular. I want to believe that the play here at the AHL level will translate to him having a really long and productive career at the NHL level. I think time will tell. But, man, you can't ask for much more than what he's given you as a Rochester American here in between the pipes. He's been great.
He has been – it's the attitude, too. Like, how many players would come down here and say, yes, not only am I going to accept the assignment, I'm going to excel at this, and I'm going to be a good teammate, and he's doing all that. The Amherst, again, home Wednesday night. Joe Yurden, Noted Hockey. There's one other Sabre thing I want to run by you, Danger. We're not entertaining Sabre playoff push, are we?
I'm not.
No. Like Lindy Ruff, when talking to reporters coming out of the Four Nations break, just laying out, okay, there's 28 games left in this push, 27 now, but at the time, 28. And if you just break it down like this, that's five-game segments, which means, hey, there's a possible 10 points in each of these segments. And if we get 7 of 10 points in each of the 5-game segments and then finish off the season with a 3-game winning streak, we'll have enough points to get in the postseason.
It sounds like a plan. Let's go with it. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
No.
No chance. No.
Yeah!
Hey, you know what? Short of having a cardboard cutout of Mr. Pagula and them removing a piece of art, an article of clothing a la Major League, I really don't know what is going to motivate a team that up to this point looks like they can't be motivated to win. I do not know. Like, we've had enough conversations about the core of this team with guys that cover this team day in and day out, and maybe Joe can shed some light on it, but I just don't know that these guys have it in them. And maybe Lindy can extract something out of some of them, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding my breath. But we'll talk to Joe about it a little bit more here from Noted Hockey. You're welcome to join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4FAN. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub at 135 West Commercial Street in ER. GoodSmokeBBQ.com. 866-4326 if you want to pull up a stool.
So what's the biggest NFL story? Is it Matthew Stafford being allowed his agent to go talk to other teams? In Danger, every year we get the big brand name quarterback that is ready, that we didn't expect would be on the market. And, hey, if you're a team like the Jets or the Giants or somebody like that, this is what I said last week, Danger. You want this if you're the Buffalo Bills, that Matthew Stafford to go to the Jets. Why? What are you talking about, Gene? It's going to – no. You don't want them in search of a next franchise quarterback. Get a Band-Aid guy like Matthew Stafford who can lead the charge to 8 or 9 wins and maybe a wild card. But honestly, wherever he goes, this is on the back end. Maybe Pittsburgh, that would be an upgrade. Maybe the Raiders, it would be kind of fun.
Right. Well, why would the Rams even entertain this? I mean, they were a playoff team just last season with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback, and I think the answer is simply it's just not worth what they're investing in him, right? You're not paying him for past production. He's a future Hall of Famer. You're not paying him for past production. You're paying him for what he can give you in the future. What he can give you in the future, in the Rams' point of view, is not worth $50 million a year. So if there's a deal to be made where Stafford is still getting paid $50 million a year, and I'm guessing that that's somewhere in the ballpark of what he's going to want to get with his new team, that feels like a mistake. It feels like you're paying somebody for more than what they're able to give you in terms of production right now. And it feels like the kind of move the Jets would make. It feels like the kind of move the Raiders would make. It feels like the kind of move the Giants would make. And I hate to say that, but if you can get him, I think the new contract has to be reasonable. And I just don't get the sense that it's going to be reasonable for whatever team ends up acquiring Matthew Stafford.
Maybe you front load it and then you'll put on void years or whatever it is on the back end. What could the Rams possibly get in a trade? And the question here that, it's kind of obvious. All right, if the Rams are going to, then what's the Rams' plan? Is it as simple as Sam Darnold? Because I'm not 100% sure the Vikings are going to let him walk out the door here.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, right? Like, that to me is the first quarterback domino that needs to fall. I think when you know where Darnold ends up, then you will know where all these other pieces kind of fall and land. Where does Aaron Rodgers go? Where does Kirk Cousins land? What about guys like Justin Fields, Russell Wilson? Like, where do all these other pieces fall? I think Darnold is still the belle of the ball. I think Darnold is the one that teams are going to, team like the Rams would be wringing their hands, I think, for the opportunity to have Sam Darnold as their quarterback.
Which is ironic, seeing that Sam Darnold turned into, Jets Sam Darnold in the playoff game against those Rams.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah.
But, if it's a consolation, he did show somewhat of a mastery of Kevin O'Connell's offense, which is Sean McVay's offense, right? And if McVay viewed his body of work in Minnesota with O'Connell, he probably thinks, if O'Connell can get that out of him, I know what I can get out of him, and why not give it a go? It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now, the Rams would still have to carry Stafford's cap charge of $49.6 million until June 1st. if they were to release him with that post-June 1st designation, that would actually help the Rams. It would help the Rams if they did the post-June 1st designation. It would cut that $45.3 million cap charge that they'd take by trading him, splitting it up over 2 years. So that's the benefit to the Rams. But the Giants, the Steelers, the Browns, the Ravens, all showing a bit of an interest here in Matthew Stafford.
Any of those teams that you mentioned, would you say, ooh, they may, if it's an AFC team, challenge Buffalo? Like, are you, where I'm going with this, are you worried about Pittsburgh? Because Pittsburgh, they got average quarterbacking last year, which was a step up from what they had. But if they brought in a Matthew Stafford,
I just realized we didn't do our bold predictions special the last day before.
No,
we
you've been gone 2 weeks.
No,
so
but we were going to do it the Thursday before I left, and we forgot to do it.
it was just a lot going on.
There was a lot going on. I only bring it up because you brought up the Steelers, and all I can think to myself with the Steelers last year is the Steelers are kind of what we thought they were going to do. They got off to this hot start, and then they absolutely crumbled under the stress of a much more challenging schedule, divisional schedule down the stretch. Yeah, they looked like this Steelers always look like.
This feels like a good week to break out. And if you're not familiar, we do this every year right before kickoff. And I have the ones that everybody wrote in, too.
Oh, good.
So, we can go over these things because what you think in August, hey, this is certain, and then you put it down on paper, and then you unseal that envelope, and
yeah.
But you got the Steeler one right.
Well, I think I said I actually didn't get it right because I'm pretty sure I said the Steelers would have a losing season, that they would have their first losing season under Tomlin. But just looking at the schedule, I'm like, oh no, they're going to struggle down the stretch because of all the divisional games they have to play down the road, and they did. To answer your question, no, the Browns, the Raiders, the Steelers, I'm not really worried about any of those teams if Stafford ends up on any of them. I like Matthew Stafford. I think he can still throw. But he was also throwing to Puka Nacua and had a pretty good run game and good offensive line and a very good, well-designed offense with Sean McVay. I don't know that you're getting that out of the Browns with Stefanski. I don't know that you're getting that out of Daboll with the Giants. Maybe. But that'll be an interesting one to kind of keep an eye on here. And it takes our eye off the Myles Garrett ball for a second, too, doesn't it? I mean, like, for all the talk around Myles Garrett this, or Cooper Kupp that, now we've got more big names that are in the mix as far as, like, who will be chattered about in Indianapolis for the Combine this week.
I'm not sure if you heard this or not, too, in your travels down in Florida. James Cook wants a new contract.
We talked about that before I left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he wants his $15 million.
Yeah.
His $15 million per year. I get what he's doing there, and I think we discussed that Thursday. Was it that Thursday, I think, before we left, that you know, okay, if you're the Buffalo Bills, what's the move here? Because $15 million would be completely out of character for this team to pay him that. Could you get away with $9 million, $10 million? Yeah, I could.
You offer him somewhere just below that, and if he says no, then you feel kind of good moving forward into the last year, and you're going to let him walk. I predict that's when it ends up happening.
So you think you let him play out this last year of his rookie deal, and it could get ugly. We could see holdout.
Yeah, you could hold out, hold in, whatever it is. I'm not going to take the field. Okay, you want the contract? You're going to have to put up numbers in this league.
Yeah, well, you have all these different guys that you have to take care of as well. That are entering the final year of their rookie contracts here coming up in 2025. We spent time talking about, the need to wrap up Shakir, Christian Benford, Terrell Bernard. These are all guys that have kind of proven to also be leaders on this team. And with Cook, $9 million a year feels like the right kind of valuation on what you would get out of him based on his recent performance. But $15 million a year. Yeah, good luck. That becomes somebody else's problem.
Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, join us tomorrow on the show. He's back from Disney.
Oh, we missed each other by like a day. Yeah, we were exchanging text messages. I was at Disney Springs on Thursday, and he sent me a message. I just missed you. But I have a feeling his family and our families, at some point that our families will intersect. Lots of Bills fans in Florida. Lots of Bills fans. I mean, it's the week to be down there, and I embarrassed my daughter, as every dad should do. My teenage daughter was driving the passenger seat. Window was rolled down. We're driving to the beach, Anna Maria Island, and I see a guy wearing a Bills shirt riding his bike, and windows roll down. I go, hey! And my daughter just sinks down and she's like, Dad, what are you doing? And the guy gave me a fist bump. He knew. Like he was. I'm like, see, Lexi, come on, you got to know. The Bills fans are here, everywhere.
That's peak dad moment when you can,
she absolutely just
not really embarrassing, but it's embarrassing.
Down into her chair, like she couldn't hide enough. I was embarrassed her so badly. We got to get to Joe Yerdon, who noted hockey. We'll talk some Sabres. We'll talk some NHL. We'll talk some Rochester Americans. All up next with our favorite noted jerk, Joe Yerdon, on the Sports Bar.
update.
Combine beginning this week. Teams, players, coaches all arriving at some point or another. Head coach Sean McDermott's already there. He will address reporters coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. Chris Trapasso today on One Bills Live. Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant.
The Bills like to have that complementary defensive tackle group. Kenneth Grant from Michigan, 6'3", like 330, but he gets up the field like he's closer to 300 pounds and is still a quality run defender. If he tests just all right, he could be there at 30 for the Bills or within striking distance. That would be the perfect plug-in next to Ed Oliver.
Amherst have the best record in the American Hockey League. They're home Wednesday night against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Sabres home tomorrow night against Anaheim. Giancarlo Stanton heading back to New York. He's dealing with tendonitis in both elbows. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, let's talk some NHL. Let's talk some Buffalo Sabres, maybe even some Amherst with Joe Yerdon, noted hockey. Our guest in the Sports Bar. And Joe, I think what we saw at the Four Nations tournament opened up a lot of sports fans' eyes to just what they maybe forgot about in the NHL. That, man, that sport's a lot of fun when you have some deep-seated hatred and a really, really good rivalry to talk about.
Man, it was, let me tell you, I was in Montreal for the first half of the tournament, and boy, oh boy, if it was the right thing to start it in Montreal, because we know how intense the fans are there and how into hockey they are, period. And, you know, you get a Canada-U.S. game in that setting with everything that's going on, and just how the U.S. and Canada have been number one and number two for a while now. But it's been a while since we had best on best. 2016, I think, was the last time. And it was just like picking up right where everything left off, granted with a lot of different players in the roster than last time. But man, it was awesome. It was a totally awesome thing. And I'm really happy to see how well it came off, because I think a lot of folks thought it was going to be like a 2-week long All-Star game. And I was like, man, the second you say you're repping your country, that it's not an All-Star game anymore. It's pride.
Well, how do you keep the ball rolling? Because now all of a sudden, and I saw this from so many people, Joe, hey, this is actually pretty good. I forgot I liked hockey, or, wow, I'm down on the NBA. Let me check this out. And then, all right, we're back to the regular season, but it's a different level certainly here. But your thoughts just kind of in general, how do you make this better? How do you grow the sport?
Well, I think the sport is it's always tough to say this with the NHL, but I think they're going in the right direction, because, I mean, things can change at a moment's notice once the NHL step on a rake here and there, and, you know, you get used to it. But I think with the league, it's definitely a downturn going from an intense tournament like that with such great hockey to being in the middle of the regular season, where this is usually the doldrums, and you're just kind of like, all right, let's get the playoffs already. But you build around those players that you watch there. And if it's a team where you didn't have anybody playing there, or maybe guys got knocked out early, you just say, listen, we have some of the best playing here. Come and see them, come and watch them. And you're just hoping that the guys, that the players can pick up from that and say, like, all right, let's carry some of that forward. Let's do this ourselves and really put it out there. Because you don't ever want the players to be actively saying, like, well, you know, we got to keep selling the game here. But, you know, that kind of passion, that kind of intensity with the games, like we see it. Like it's out there. It's out there every game. It's just, you know, when you boil it down to the local team level, it depends a lot on the local team success too. So that can be the tough part as well.
Yeah, Joe, I just think back to when ESPN originally had the NHL, and we saw the game kind of grow, and you know, we had these intense, heated rivalries, and so much was made of Detroit versus Colorado and Detroit versus Chicago. And what about today's game is missing there? I mean, I feel like maybe Toronto versus any team north of the border has a little bit of a heated rivalry to it, but do those rivalries, is there anything close to any of those rivalries? Because that is what I feel drew everybody into the Four Nations, the idea that you had this intense hatred between these two teams, the three fights within the first 9 seconds. Is there anything remotely close to that in the NHL right now?
I'm going to say no, but I think the bar especially is set really high. I mean, that everything with that, because I mean, it's the Kachuk brothers just being, and I say this very complimentary, very lovingly, being absolute idiots. Just being like, you know what, this is a big thing, this is a big deal. That's kind of having a feel for the moment too, but just knowing that like they're gonna get booed like crazy no matter what. It's Canada, it's US, like you're gonna get booed in Canada. And them just being like, all right, let's lean into it. Let's just go for it and really get this thing off to a bang. And you know, I mean, some people might poo-poo it, but geez, everybody was talking about it. Everybody was like, holy cow, I can't, like, this is amazing. Because people have seen the movie Slapshot. That movie's like, she's 50 years old almost. Like, it's things like that that are fresh in people's minds from, you know, like pop culture and like history. Like, that kind of stuff sticks, and you know, people might not like fighting, but like stuff like that, man, like I don't know, it grabs your attention. It was fun, and it made the game, like once the game settled down, the game itself was great. Like that's a great game. The championship game was a great game.
Yes.
You know, like Sweden Finland was a great game. Like just everything about that, you're seeing great hockey, but like you get a little bit of that showmanship on top of it, and you get a little bit of that heat, and you get that. Like that's what makes the playoffs, the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's must-watch TV because every game has that. It's tough to get that for a regular season. It is. But if you get rivals that really have it out for each other, and you build that up, becomes must-watch TV because you know, that gives it a little something extra. And you don't have two teams that really have that right now. You know, Colorado, Detroit is something that will never be repeated. I'm convinced. Like, you just don't. That's just never going to happen again, as far as I'm concerned. To that level of hatred and talent. Like those two teams weren't loser teams. Those were two of the most talented teams in the league, and they hated each other. You just don't have that right now. You kind of need somebody to do something really dumb or really reckless to help make that happen in hockey, which is, you know, usually means injuries, and you don't want that to happen. But both teams are trying to, you know, knock each other's teeth out, you know, just because they just don't like each other. Man, sign me up. Like it's kind of what you need. People want to see it.
Last one for me on the Four Nations, Joe, and it involves the game-winning play. As soon as it gets to McDavid, okay, game over. I mean, I think we all thought that, right? Like, oh, no, there it is, and there it was. But the question isn't about McDavid. It's about the guy that is getting the blame there, and I just want to make sure. Was that Austin Matthews' responsibility? And overall, I mean, was there anybody that had a more disappointing tournament than the Maple Leaf captain?
Yeah, that's Matthews' responsibility. That's a tough play because that came off of an icing, so those guys are stuck out. It's ice, you know, you ice it in overtime, you're gonna have tired guys out there, period, because everybody's been playing, you know, for 60 plus minutes. But Matthews was trying to seal it off, and like Matthews takes the blame on that, but that kind of in-zone play is something the U.S. did all tournament. Like if a guy was, you know, because Fox, I think it was Fox that was following Marner up the wall out of the corner, and Matthews is going to cut him off because they want to double on the puck. U.S. was doing that all tournament in the zone because you double on the guy in the puck, he's either going to make a bad pass and turn it over, or he's going to get trapped on the wall, and then you're going to fish it out and you're killing time, like whatever. It's just that Matthews didn't quite get there in time. Marner makes a great play, and then McDavid is like, oh, my guy's gone. I'm just going to sit here right in the middle in the high slot. And by that point, I think that you can see the chain reaction kind of happen from there because, you know, Jack Hughes is out high shadowing the defense because it's kind of a man-on-man thing. But then Hughes sees Matthews go, and then he's like, uh-oh, that's McDavid, and he just sat down in the zone. I got to try to get, and it's too late. It's way too late by that point because a great pass and a guy who doesn't have it on his stick for more than half a second. It's automatic. It's the best player in the league. It's tough for the U.S. because you the last two times they've lost to Canada, it's Crosby beating them in 2010, and then McDavid doing it in 20. And in this tournament, you're just like, oh man, come on.
The reality is the best player in the world resides north of the border, Joe. I think that's the takeaway from both of those tournaments. And we're going to shift gears here and talk some Sabres. I'm just wondering, is it possible that we can get the Rangers on the schedule for the remainder of the schedule, the Buffalo Sabres, or just so we have a little bit of a chance, something to look forward to here? Boy,
that's two unbelievable performances they put against the Rangers this year. Chase Igor Shesterkin from a game twice in a season. That's bonkers. Like that is just wild stuff. Doing it down at MSG, and now the other night up here was something else. And the fatalistic thought from fans, and even maybe some of us up in the press box, were like, boy, getting that fifth goal do a lot of good right now. If they get up 4-0, you're like, hope they get number 5 here, because we've seen that movie play out before. And then as soon as you think it was 5-0, and you're like, all right, this should be fine. But Rangers get a couple back on the power play, and then you're going to the third period, it's 5-2. You're like, it's mostly safe, but they better. Next goal is really big, and good for the Sabres for putting that away, because so much of that stuff that happened in the first half of the year with blowing bat, Colorado twice, and some of these other games, Lindy Griffiths felt like they've turned a corner when it's come to that stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, but you got to prove it. And the last few times we've seen them get into those spots, they put those games away, which thank goodness, because it was like, you cannot have that kind of horror scene unfold every time you get a massive multi-goal lead.
Joe, I know exactly that game, because that game 4-0 had a commitment that night myself. When the Colorado game, and I get out to my car after, and I'm hearing Dunleavy and Ray talking about the Sabres, going with the extra attacker now on the ice. I'm like, why? What? Oh my gosh! Oh no, They blew that. Joe, are you buying into Lindy Ruff's math? 7 of 10, 5 times plus 3 wins. I mean, we're not entertaining this, right?
It's really hard to. I get why Lindy says it. I get why the players are like, hey, we got to find a way. We got to win our game. Like, I get it. That's their job. They have to do that. The math is really hard. The math is so hard. I broke it down on Noted Hockey after the game the other night, where they've won 5 of their last 6, and you win 5 out of 6. You're like, okay, that's the kind of run that helps you gain ground, helps you get up standings, helps do all this. And the teams that are in front of them aren't playing very well either. Pittsburgh, all these teams that are a few points away from them. And they haven't made up any ground. Like, they've been 4 points. It felt like they've been 4 points behind the Penguins now for weeks. And, here they are in a stretch where they won 5 of 6, and they haven't caught them. They haven't caught them. They haven't jumped them. They haven't done any of that. But they've made, this is the bed they've made. And now they have to just, you gotta make good on it. You gotta win games. You have to do your part. And, I asked Lindy today if you have to kind of tune out the other scores. You have to just kind of not think about it and just do your job, and and just take care of things, because it's so hard to make up the ground. And he's like I don't feel the scoreboard. I got to know what's going on. You got to know who you got, who's ahead of you to beat if you're going to beat them. And I'm like, well, fair, okay, good point, but it can be the kind of thing where it's just mentally just wears you down, because you're like, oh man, we're playing good, we're playing great. Where are we now? Still last in the East. Right. Great, cool. We're still 11 points back of the wild card. Awesome. This, it can feel like you're Sisyphus rolling the stone up the mountain, and then it's like, oh, there it goes, right back down again. Okay, what do we do? It's the Al Davis mentality now. Just win, baby. And don't even think about what everybody else is doing. You have to win. That's the only thing.
When you talk about where they are as an organization, where they are in the standings, I mean, it's been bad for quite some time. The constant has been ownership, Joe, and we've talked to insiders as recently as prior to the Four Nations break, just echoing what we've heard for years. Like, this team isn't going to achieve what we all wanted to achieve until there are massive changes. GM, president of hockey ops. You have a team with players that when they actually do what the coach tells them to do, they win games. They're just so wildly inconsistent. From your point of view, what are some of the things that you think need to change in order for this team to be more consistent and to be that playoff team that we all know and expect them to be?
For me, the biggest thing is to have more adults in the room. We've they're the youngest team in the league. They have been for 3 seasons now. And the big line, even it started last season, was that yes, they're young in age, but they have experience. Which yes, okay, experience is good. NHL experience is very good. You need that. You can't just have guys who are green constantly being in the lineup and making rookie mistakes. But the thing is, when you're young, you're still you're still young. You're still life inexperienced. You're still, other guys, other teams you're playing against have guys that are older, that have been there, that have done that. And when you're that young, it can still, kind of shake you a bit to see, guys who know the tricks or, are able to come back in games when, they're down by 3 or 4 goals. You see McKinnon and, when Rantanen was there, Rantanen and Makar just shake off a 4-0 deficit and be like, whatever, we can get it back. And then they do it. And then, you're suddenly like, oh no, these guys they're going to get us. They know how to do this. They've done it before. And you're young and you're like, well, how do we stop them? Like, these are 3 of the best players in the world. What do we do? And then, they get one, and then it's like, oh, here they come. And then that's it. We've heard some of the Sabres players say that, after games this year where that's happened. And, it's the thing where you have more guys, more Jason Zuckers, more guys that have been around before, that have been there, done that, seen it all, to be able to calm things down and settle everybody down and say, listen, whatever, man, like, we're ahead. Forget it. It's 1 goal. Who cares? Like, let's just go back and take care of business. That's something that's been missing, because too many guys who are as young as they are and as talented as they are still have that moment where it's like, oh no, like, what do I do? It has nothing to do with their ability or anything. It's just that kind of mental shock of being young and getting hit in the mouth by adults. Really, it's something that has been lacking, and that's why Zucker's been such a good ad, because he's not young. He's in his 30s. He's been there, done that, and he's taking care of business. They've needed more of that, and it's something that's been lacking. And it's tough to do because you've got so many young guys that you want to play, and veterans don't want to come here and play 3rd, 4th line minutes or play 3rd pairing minutes and just kind of deal with it while watching kids kind of go out there and make mistakes. And you're a mentor.
Joe, you're noted hockey. You can also follow him on Blue Sky, our guest here in the sports bar. Joe, a message from everybody here. I'm going to speak on behalf of all Rochester Amerks fans. Please relay this to Sabre management. Leave us alone here. Okay, do not meddle with this. Okay, something really, really good is happening. If anything, make sure that there are names on the Clear Day roster here, Joe. And as part of that too, I don't want there to be this vacuum at the end of the season going up to Buffalo, and we're going to trade veterans here and let kids come up and play. And your thoughts on what's happening here in Rochester? Because look, all these years under Seth, before that Chris Taylor, you had competitive teams. 1 year making it to the conference final. This feels different, Joe. I'm telling you, this feels different. This is a team that right now I think has all the ingredients to win a Calder Cup.
I agree. I agree completely. And I'm pained that I haven't been able to get out there because the schedule's been so stupid. I'd be lucky me getting to go to Montreal and all, but it would have been cool to go to Roch to catch up with the guys. But I don't think you have anything to worry about there. And that isn't necessarily because Adams doesn't want to tinker with Rochester. I think it's because he's made it a point to say that if they're, he hasn't really talked to us very much lately. I can try to understand why, but it's if he's going to make a trade, he wants to get players back for the NHL level, which, maybe they, guys like Greenway and Zucker and Yoki Haru are guys that could be had in trades at the deadline to buyers, but Sabres are still the mindset like, yeah, hey, we're going to make a run at this. We're going to try to do this, which, whatever. Like, if you feel like they can, cool. If you think that they're not going to be able to do that and they're kind of living in fantasy land, I understand that thought too. But I don't think you're going to have to worry about them sending everybody out of here March 7th, and then suddenly you're going to see Roseanne and Johnson and Levi all going up to Buffalo. I just do not see that happening right now. It would be not necessarily counterproductive, but I don't think it's what Lindy wants. I don't think he wants to kind of uproot the entire team at this point in the year when he's still trying to get this group on the rolling in the right direction. You go and change that all up, it's going to kind of not make him feel great about it. And honestly, you want it's the old line. You want those guys in Roch to have success, especially guys that you think and believe that can be part of the Sabres organization in the future. And there is nothing more important for guys like Roseanne and Oslin and Levi and Johnson and Comer. All these guys, you want all these guys to have this kind of success and learn what it means to win, and that's vital. And pulling them out of there to come up to Buffalo to be part of a fight that might not work, not the plan. So I don't think you've got to worry about it in Roch right now, and I think it would go counter to what Adams has been saying to us this year if they traded, these guys that are UFAs this summer away and then fill out ranks with guys from Roch to kind of, play out the string. That would be, I think it's counterproductive for everybody. And I think it would go counter against what I believe is the message they want to send to everybody here.
Joe, tell our regulars here in the sports bar about Noted Hockey and where we can get more of your work here as you're covering the Sabres and the rest of the NHL.
Yeah, you can find notedhockey.com is the place for lots of Sabres writing and hopefully some more Amherst writing as the season goes on. I don't want to make unfulfilled promises here. $5 a month, $50 for a year if you want to sign up there. BleacherReport.com, NHL, lots of league-wide stuff to do there. And yeah, follow me on Blue Sky, joeyerden.bsky.social. Please God, fix those handles, boys. Let's make this easier to share.
Yeah, Joe, appreciate that. I'm sure we'll be talking more, and who knows, we may see you. We better I want to book you on the show when we're out at the Blue Cross Arena coming up this spring, bud.
You can bank on it because playoff time, I will certainly be making my way there as long as the Toronto Maple Leafs don't corral my attention for Bleacher Report in the playoffs, which. I mean, hey, maybe you might lose me for a week there, and then I'm right back in Roch, so we'll see.
Very good, buddy. Looking forward to it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for giving us some time this afternoon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
There's Joe Yerden. Check out Noted Hockey, covering the Sabres, covering the NHL, Bleacher Report as well. Great stuff from Joe, as always.
Yeah, as we have Sean McDermott coming up to speak to reporters at 4. Are we thinking he's on time, Danger?
Well, here's what we'll do. We'll take a break.
Yeah.
We'll come back. It'll be a little after 4 o'clock. We'll give him a buffer of maybe 3 to 5 minutes and see if we hear from head coach Sean McDermott here from Indianapolis. Up next, one way or the other, we're going to talk to Alex Brasky from Indianapolis.
Yeah, and there's one thing that is old, one thing that's new that I want to run by you. One thing that we discussed last week. If you like hot uniform talk, I think this is white hot. See what I did there? Yeah. I want to get Danger's opinion on this here. Also, I miss the days of Syracuse playing, Villanova, UConn.
You missed the Big East.
St. John's.
Yeah, we've talked about this. I mean, how much fun would Syracuse be if they were in the Big East and not in the ACC?
Could this really happen?
Oh, really?
I'm not kidding.
Okay.
I'm not kidding. This is kind of coming indirectly. Yeah.
College athletics, the Wild Wild West.
The Wild
man.
Wild West. Oh, my gosh. Done.
Follow the money.
Yeah, we'll explain what this is all about.
And we got some reports out of Indianapolis here, the competition committee. It's why Sean McDermott is already in Indianapolis. They had a meeting last night. A team that wants to ban the tush push. Don't give me a reason to hate on Green Bay because I will take it, Gino. I will take it.
I was wondering if you saw who did that.
My guess is I have a non-sports take too, fresh from a week's worth of travel, and I don't know when this happened. I think I know when this happened, but I'm kind of curious as to whether or not you're one of these people when traveling. We'll get into that and more next. Sean McDermott, Alex Brasky, the Batavia Daily News and Bills Digest, and Happy Hour all coming up at 5 o'clock as well. Here in the sports bar, it's Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Welcome to NFL Combine Week. Bills head coach Sean McDermott to address reporters here shortly. Chris Brown, today in Indy, on One Bills Live, he wants someone big.
Maybe you just need a guy that can be a one that also offers run-stuffing ability. So, I don't know. I'm of the opinion the Bills need a plugger. Who the hell cares if he only plays 2 downs? If you can get him in round 3, put him in there.
Amherst with the best record in the American Hockey League. They're home Wednesday night against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Sabres, coming off an 8-goal performance, back home tomorrow night against Anaheim. Giancarlo Stanton, he has left Yankee camp. He's headed back to the city for tests. Stanton dealing with tendonitis in both elbows. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Here we are. We are.
At the NFL Combine in Indianapolis.
And it is Combine Week. Straight up, I want everyone to throw at the Combine.
Talking about quarterbacks throwing at the Combine is the most overrated topic that I've ever hit this airwaves.
The return of Mike Danger.
Tamperfest. Tamperfest.
Tamperfest.
Yeah, Tamperfest in Indianapolis. The Combine. Tamperfest.
Gene Battaglia.
I'm Vanilla Baby.
Your wish list for the Buffalo Bills here this offseason.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell.
I want defensive linemen with arrest records. Mean, bad dudes. I don't want Boy Scouts. You know, we need nasty, nasty defensive linemen.
Chuck Muncie has levels to him that I would have never expected.
Chuck Muncie!
Let's go Amherst.
Here come the Buffalo Sabres!
Welcome, Juan Soto.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
I got to say a big thank you to Terrible Take Timmy for stepping up at my place all last week while I was basking in the sun of Florida. And it's nice to know that now there's another person that is in on the Chuck Muncie gag.
It's once you explain it, people are like, oh, that's really kind of cool. And when our buddy Mike from Ontrack came in, he saw the Chuck Muncie. Like, you see it. Like, there aren't many things up in our studio. That was a gift Mike Danger brought back for me, or a trip to Virginia.
Yeah.
It's a collectible show. And it's this picture from the 1970s. This is Chuck with New Orleans. And clearly he's injured on the play, almost like you're assuming he's been knocked out, where you have somebody giving him smelling salts.
Yep.
Somebody
else holding his glasses. Yep. Yeah, and I don't remember Chuck Muncie, the New Orleans Saint. I remember Chuck Muncie, the San Diego Charger, like in that Dan Fouts, Air Coryell offense. Like he was the bruiser. He was electric. But you remember him because he wore the specs, and you didn't see a lot of running backs wearing the specs. He got absolutely obliterated on this play that this photo takes place. You could just see he looks. If you're watching on YouTube, our YouTube channel is The Fan Rochester. You can see there's the picture of Chuck Muncie getting tended to. And it's clearly a head injury. He's sitting up, but he's got somebody with the smelling salts, somebody else holding his glasses. He got the crap beat out of him. But why we love Chuck Muncie is less about the legend of the player, his time in the NFL. It was because he was your college radio Baba Booey.
Right. I was trying to do a serious show and, as we would say, get tape. And how can I, get going in this profession when people are calling me?
Yeah.
With Chuck Muncie.
So you would have friends call you, you'd have classmates call you, and try to spit takes on sports. But then Chuck Muncie inevitably would come up, and it's like, we're not talking about Chuck Muncie. Chuck Muncie isn't the answer. You had a big bruising back, somebody like Chuck Muncie.
Well, and then I have to tell Danger, we did the show for years. You didn't know anything about any of this. And it's the day where the Bills lose against the Dolphins. It's like 100 degrees down there. Bills are dropping left and right in this game. And we're taking all these calls, and somebody called in and said, Josh Allen can't do it all on his own.
I just wanted to say one other thing. Look, that they need a big, strong, powerful runner. Somebody like a Chuck Muncie. I think.
There it is.
Darn it.
Gino got trolled. Yeah, Joe. I love it. so excited because, hey, we got Joe calling from Schenectady. We got a listener on the Odyssey app who's calling from the capital region. Joe that was well done.
Yeah.
Well played. We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. It is me, Danger. It is Battaglia. You're welcome to join us at 866-4326. Mention the YouTube channel. We're broadcasting live. We're streaming live on our YouTube channel. You can watch us there at the Fan. Rochester, get us on your smart device. When you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, I don't know that we have Sean McDermott speaking to the media as of right now, but we will try to get you as much of that as possible. And if we can't get it to you, well, we have Alex Brasky as our ears and eyes in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. He will join us immediately after Sean McDermott's press availability.
Yeah, I like my new joke here. He's Dr. Sean McDermott. Like, he's on doctor time. So our appointment is at 4 o'clock. And I'm sure that I know Mike Catalan and Dan Fates are both out there. So the second that we see, the tweets starting to come through, we'll figure this out.
Now, we do have Sean McDermott's there already because he's part of the NFL's competition committee who met last night. And we're starting to hear some of the whispers and rumblings out of this meeting from last night. One of the things was a team proposing a ban on the tush push. Rich McKay of the competition committee mentioned that it didn't come up in yesterday's meeting, but there is a proposal that, according to Troy Vincent, the executive vice president of football operations, telling reporters today that a team has proposed to ban the tush push, the play that, of course, Philadelphia runs to perfection. The Bills run to, near perfection when they're not playing Kansas City. If you see a proposal, it needs to go to a vote of league owners. They need at least 24 votes in favor for it to be a rule change in order for that to be adopted. I don't know where you come down on this, Gino. I think it's ridiculous that we're even talking about banning a play from the NFL. If you want the Eagles to stop calling that play, then defenses need to do what the Chiefs did to the Bills in the AFC Championship game. Just stop the play. It can be done. This isn't hard for me. I don't understand why the Green Bay Packers, of all teams, are looking to ban the tush push.
Isn't it? Yeah. And who did they lose twice to? Bookended, by the way, week 1 in the postseason.
Right.
The Green Bay Packers losing twice to Philadelphia. It's funny that it's coming from Green Bay, but if it came from a different direction, would you entertain it? In other words, okay, this isn't next year or the year after, but the next CBA, this might be an ask. You think players like running that? I don't.
Centers don't like running it.
I don't think defensive linemen like playing it. You look at the tape of, what was it, Chris Jones? He's turned sideways.
Yeah.
Like, it was a different kind of look. If the players' union said, hey, we want to make this game safer, we want to get rid of this play altogether, that might be a concession.
It's a quarterback sneak on steroids. I just don't know why you would get rid of this. I mean, it feels like it's part of the game. It's always been part of the game. And I think if you ban the tush push, then what are you going to ban next? RPOs? You're going to ban the Wildcat formation? Where's
the line, though, when it comes to this? Like what is a tush push and what is just the quarterback leaning forward for 3rd and 1? Because for not years, for more than a decade, it's Tom Brady on 4th and 1. Hut. Where's it's this gap that's open, first down.
Right.
That's all it was.
That's right.
And now it's gotten a little more physical. Credit Philadelphia, and I'd say credit the Bills, except, you got to know what you're dealing. Maybe that's a wrinkle you have to add next year, Josh, and the offense. You don't go left side every time on that play.
Or, we just sneak it. Old school quarterback sneak. Figure out something else. But I saw that. I'm like, all right, well, Green Bay is soft. Your coach is soft. And it makes sense that soft team would want that play. I'm just going to take a shot. I'm going to go ahead, pop off a little bit. Don't give me a reason to pop off on Green Bay because I'll take it.
It's one of these stories where, wait a second, this can't be real. Wait a second, this is real? Danger, it's one of these stories that I don't think is being talked enough about. Big East Commissioner Val Ackerman went on the Varsity podcast and dropped this bomb. She's open to the idea of a merger between the Big East and the ACC. Okay, let's just stop right there. If she's open to it, guess what? You think they're already having conversations? I mean, this was an idea that was floated. Check that. I think it was planted. 2 huge names actually brought this up last week. One being from the Big East, Rick Pitino. Who's the biggest name in the ACC, even though he's not coaching anymore? Mike Krzyzewski. Both Pitino and Krzyzewski talking about the benefits of getting this done. Of course. Yes, anything. They can get Syracuse to trade on their schedules. Wake Forest and NC State and Georgia Tech and these teams we don't care about for UConn and St. John's and Villanova.
Yeah. It goes back to what we started the show talking about, right? Like what made the Four Nations tournament so good? The rivalry, the hatred, you could just sense it, you could feel it. What made the NHL great in the late 90s, early 2000s? That rivalry that we were talking to Joe Yerdon about between a team like the Avalanche and the Red Wings, just two teams that hate each other. And you know the rivalries that exist between Syracuse and UConn or Syracuse. You need this. You need this because a Syracuse Georgia Tech matchup doesn't matter. Syracuse Miami doesn't matter. Syracuse Virginia Tech, no big giant Franceses all the way around. Syracuse in the ACC. Who cares? Let's just call it what it was. I mean, it's about the money, and if this happens, it'll be, of course, about the money. Everybody has a price. Can we figure out a way where everybody makes money off of this merger?
Yeah, for short term, okay, you'll get Duke and UConn. Yes.
The wild west of college athletics, man. Right now, I know a lot of people are saying college athletics is being ruined by everything that's going on. I'm okay with all of it. I love the uncertainty. I want to see pandemonium. I want to see an ACC Big East merger. That would be unreal.
We want to see it, but then this was a story that I'm not sure you saw down there. The Orange roll out their new campaign, Danger Champion Q's, where we need to kind of raise money for world-class facilities. $50 million? $50 million.
Yep.
Okay, like who's writing the check for that?
Dude,
me and you.
I told you it was eye-opening to me last year when I was down south, when I was in Florida for my week-long migration. I saw a billboard in Florida for the University of Florida, but it wasn't come to the University of Florida for a great education or, see why we're different than every other school in our state. It was be a part of our winning tradition, be a part of our winning culture, be a part of our winning programs, give to the University of Florida collective and help us, compete. I'm like, wow, it's happening. They're asking people and if you're an alumni, I know my wife would never think about that, but if you're an alumni, you might be like, hey, yeah, I kind of do want to see my team.
Yes, but then I'm sure they would sell you something, Danger, but the idea that, do you know what the ask is here? To get in this, and you would get parking, you would get like a meet and greet, you would get all this. For the low price of $25,000 over 5 years, $5,000 installments every year.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like you like going. I like going to the Cape, and my $5,000 pretty much goes to a cottage. I run on the Cape and I disappear.
Yeah.
I don't want to be. Maybe part of me is skewed because there isn't a month that doesn't go by for my college. Like, please give to me.
Of course.
Stop.
Of course.
You're terrible. You're the worst people in the world managing money.
I understand what you're saying. I also think that there are people out there that can support, that have a little bit more wealth than you and I do, that can support the idea of $5,000 a month to, to my old school, because I really want to see the basketball program, take off once again. I know that that's a different level. It's not alien behavior, because alien behavior is what the billionaire owners are doing, but there is a level in there between where we sit, Gino, and where the aliens sit, where I could see somebody saying, yeah, $5,000 a month, sure, I could do that. Yeah, why not? Let me go ahead. Let's get a winner out there, boys. What do we say?
No.
Oh, the parking will be great. I can't wait.
By the way, parking at the Dome, you and I were there. We were fortunate.
Yeah.
Like when we went for the high school, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, one last note on traveling here, and this is my non-sports take today, because I don't know if this happened. My guess is it happened at some point during the pandemic when people were traveling with masks and tensions were at an all-time high. Reclining your seat when flying is now a social no-no.
Right.
Right. I didn't really see when this happened. I didn't do it. I didn't partake in this activity, but I actually saw someone go as far as wedge a Pringles can between their tray and the seat in front of them to prevent the recline from actually happening. I mean, this is like the standard risk-reward situation, right? You don't need to ask for trouble for something that, let's face it, doesn't make that big of a difference, the seat recline in a plane is kind of a zero anyways.
I think the only time it might be acceptable is if you're on a long flight and you're trying to get some shut eye.
Or if you know there's nobody behind you.
No, correct. Oh, yeah, that would be obvious, yeah.
Yeah, that is happens so few and far between now. I feel like every flight I'm on is booked. I mean, I guess there's a couple of flights where it's like, oh, okay, we got a little bit of room here, a little bit of space. But, yeah, I didn't realize how much of a societal no-no reclining the seat is when you're flying now. You just don't see anybody do it. It's almost like they don't even need to make the announcement anymore. To return your seats to the upright position is like, why even make the announcement? We're all complying. Nobody's reclining their seats anymore.
No, it's kind of a D move, isn't it? That's the way I kind of view it. If I'm going to all right, sorry.
Yeah, risk reward. It's just not worth the risk of starting some trouble for something that is a limited benefit.
We got McDermott? Or?
No, I don't have it because I don't know that is he speaking now?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it. I wanted to bring up something here that look, we covered a lot of ground while you were gone. We made it through danger. Again, thanks to Terrible Take Timmy, thanks to Dan DeLorean, thanks to my buddy Mike coming in. Revisiting something we brought up last week.
It's a little hot uniform talk?
It's hot uniform talk.
Yeah.
This is so hot. I need to bring this up just to get Mike Danger's reaction. This is according to the Hockey News. The NHL is considering going back to making white the predominant color of the home sweater, with road teams wearing the color. Now, the earliest this could happen would be October 2026, something that needs to be discussed for some reason in the next CBA.
I need a little history here, and I need to try because I don't remember. Why did the NHL get away from this?
Okay. I read up
the
on
alternate
this.
jersey?
Yeah. So not the alternate, just it was okay, the lockout happened. Okay, and this was what, 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. Lose a whole season. And we come back from the season, like, wait a second. I'm all off kilter. Like, wait a second. Why are teams wearing color at home and white on the road? Apparently, Danger, this was the way it always was in the 60s and the 70s. And then it was 1974 that they changed it. So the era that you and I grew up in,
white was the home team.
When you saw Wayne Gretzky at home, it was white. When you saw those Islander teams, white was the home. But then every team that kind of came through, you got to see the different colors. Mm-hmm. The idea was back to try to make more money was, well, we're home and we're wearing multiple jerseys with color, the third, whatever it is. We would sell better if we went to the colors at home. I'm wondering if there's a whole generation that this would throw them off. A whole generation of fans that came up, say around 2005, 2006. You're not into this like I am. I would sign up for this in the second. But
oh, who cares?
What? Oh, come on.
It's kind of a Francesa.
No.
I think the white. I am partial to the white uniforms. I do like the white uniforms. But whether they're wearing them at home or on the road, I guess I know what you're saying, and I remember that well. I remember the time of the white uniforms for the home team. But now I'm so accustomed to the colorful jerseys, sweaters at home that it doesn't really move
You
the
go
needle
to
for
a
me.
Sabre game, they're playing the Blackhawks. You don't want to see your Blackhawks in white. You want to see the visiting team in their team colors.
I don't know that I have an opinion on this one. I don't know that it really moves the needle for me one way or the other. I'm sorry, Gino. I know this is a big deal for you. I know this is the hottest of hot uniform talk, but I'm trying to visualize what would it look like if I went to KeyBank and the Sabres were wearing their whites instead of the Royal Blues that we were all yelling for so many years. I don't know that it would make that big of a difference to me. And then furthermore, the whiteout. Would that allow for more whiteouts? Would every team then adopt a whiteout? Because the whiteout was born in Winnipeg. That happened in Winnipeg with the Jets back in the day. Kind of went down to Phoenix with the Coyotes during the postseason.
There's somebody from Penn State saying that was us first.
Of course, right. And the Bills were the first ones to sing Mr. Brightside during the game too. Don't tell anybody at the University of Michigan anything differently. No good idea is an original idea. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll hopefully have Sean McDermott speaking to the media. If not, we'll try and catch up here with Alex Brasky, who is in Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine. More next on The Fan.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott to address reporters at some point this hour during the Combine at Eddie. Chris DePasso today on One Bills Live on Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant.
The Bills like to have that complementary defensive tackle group. Kenneth Grant from Michigan, 6'3", like 330, but he gets up the field like he's closer to 300 pounds and is still a quality run defender. If he tests just all right, he could be there at 30 for the Bills or within striking distance. That would be the perfect plug-in next to Ed Oliver.
Amherst have the best record in the American Hockey League. They get the shootout win against Toronto on Saturday. Rochester continues the homestand Wednesday against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Sabres are home tomorrow night taking on Anaheim. Giancarlo Stanton heading back to New York for tests. He's dealing with tendonitis in both elbows. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
No, waiting to hear from Sean McDermott, Bills head coach, live from Indianapolis, the NFL Scouting Combine. Also know that there's a meeting last night. The competition committee got together, and the Eagles proposing a rule change last year. You might remember this, Gino, that would allow teams to try and convert a 4th and 20 from their own 20-yard line rather than attempt the onside kick. That, let's face it, the onside kick in 2024 was kind of a dud, right? There was
no element of surprise anymore.
Right, with no element of surprise. I mean, for as much as the new kickoff rules kind of like, I think we all became used to it. We got more returns out of it. I want to say returns were up over 50%. There are still some rules that they're trying to work with on that, and some wrinkles that they're trying to iron out. So the Eagles made that proposal last year, and it didn't get the 24 votes from owners that it needed to be approved. But Rich McKay, the chairman of the competition committee, said yesterday he thinks that is another proposal that could come up again this offseason, because God knows I don't know that you can go another season with the onside kick being as kind of pointless as it was in 2024.
Another interesting thing that was being discussed, and this is kind of going into an area that I think eventually we'll get to, is that, hey, for the officials on the field, are they making all the decisions? One thing that I thought was a pleasant surprise, just the speed and the efficiency of the review from up top.
Replay assist.
Yeah, replay assist was fantastic this year. But can you expand that even more when it comes to things like penalties? Things like, hey, that's Sam Darnold, and he just got his head ripped off. Maybe we should call the 15-yard penalty on
face
that.
mask, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to see that. And again, every rule change needs to get 24 votes. 24 owner votes in order for it to become an actual rule change. But when you hear some of these things that are being proposed, I can get behind it. I'm not going to get behind the tush push being banned. I think that's silly. But if you want to involve replay assist more, get the calls right, not slow down the game. If you want to modify the kickoff rule even further, I think what they were discussing, maybe kicking it off 5 yards farther back, once again, to try and encourage more returns, touchbacks at the 35, which we've discussed. If these are some of the rules that get changed going into the 25 season, I think we'll sign up for that.
You can write to us on X, The Fan Rochester's handle. He is a.k.a. Mike Danger. I'm at Gene Battaglia. Frank writing in, talking about the sweaters here. I beg to differ. I've always used the Sabres white sweater, blue pants, white socks, to be iconic, like one of the best in hockey. The NHL went from dark home jerseys to white home jerseys around the time of expansion to 12 teams in 1967. The NHL changed the dark home sweaters upon the advent of the third jersey money-making scam by requiring the road teams to always wear white. The home teams, could blank around with different colors.
That's right. Okay, so Frank, thank you. You're talking dirty. You're just talking dirty to us right now, Frank. It was the third jersey. It was the alternate jersey.
It was the alternate jersey
that kind of sparked this, right? So I guess that's my question: is what do you do with the alternate jersey now? Are you going back to just two jerseys?
Or you could just become the NBA. Like, okay, majority of the time we'll wear the white, but then this night we're going to wear this. Like when you're watching the NBA, you have colors on colors.
I have no idea what I'm watching anymore. Like
No.
with some of what they're throwing out there. I'm like, what team am I looking at?
Okay, like I have a particular team in mind in the NBA. Like when they're on, they're so off brand. I'm like, the Brooklyn Nets to me. Whenever Brooklyn is on, like I thought their colors were black and silver, very iconic, and it seems like they'll wear anything.
Atlanta is my team. I
Yeah.
don't know what Atlanta's. When Atlanta's on the NBA, I'm like, is that Atlanta? I can't tell. I have no idea anymore. Okay, so I kind of said this was a Francesa. I'm not trying to upset you, Gino. I remember that change being partially because of the alternate jersey, and we all love the alternate jerseys. Oh my God, how cool is that jersey? How cool is that jersey? And of course, that was what the NHL wanted. They wanted to sell more merchandise, and we ate it up. So now I guess I wonder, can you live if you're the Sabres and you're wearing the goat heads and you're wearing the all black, and the visiting team is wearing their colored jersey as well? Can you live with two teams playing each other without one of them wearing a white jersey?
That's part of the CBA discussion too, because there was an outdoor game. They made an exception for this, the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs, and you had red on blue, and I was like, oh, that looks a little different there.
Okay,
so you don't necessarily need to have the white. By the way, the NHL is like, I think they've run out of ideas for outdoor games. You know, we have an outdoor game this Saturday.
We do.
It's at the Horseshoe. You know, because Ohio State, Michigan football is just legendary. Why don't we take the team that plays in Columbus and bring down Detroit? So,
who cares?
I knew that was coming.
Is that'll set a record? It'll set a record. Will that set an attendance record for the NHL?
I'm not sure. You think that would sell out?
I don't know. I don't know what the current record is for the outdoor game. I imagine that at the Big House they probably had, because they had a game at the Big House. I'm not making that up, right? I'm fairly certain that if they're doing it at the Shoe, that could be a record setter.
That one I was talking about between Toronto and Detroit, 105,491 at the Big House. Yeah,
at the Big House.
Yeah.
Could you get over 105 at the Shoe?
I don't think that seats that many.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
who cares?
I do think that the outdoor games they've kind of run their course. They were fun. It was novel.
102,780 is the capacity of Ohio Stadium.
Okay, so they're not setting a record.
You know, they could bring in portable stuff. They could if they wanted to. I'm sure.
Well, Frank, thank you for clarifying that for us. I remember the white home jerseys, and I'll agree with you. I think the Sabres white jersey is a clean look, really clean. I like it a lot. But I don't know if I any more care if they're wearing colored or white jerseys at home. You know, especially when you have alternate jerseys or fourth jerseys, or if you're in the NBA, you've got all these different, you know, or Major League Baseball. The City Connect jerseys are terrible. I hate the City Connect jerseys in baseball. Just do nothing for me.
See, now that's kind of an old man take, Danger.
I
because
know.
It's not for you.
I know.
We had some call.
We're
my gosh.
selling jerseys.
We should ask Dan DeLorean to. I want the gentleman to call back. I don't want to make him feel bad, but it was a call that I wish we took while you were here.
Why, you want me to ban somebody? Because I'll ban somebody.
No, not ban. It was just out of left field. Like, oh, hey, I've been wanting to call in after the Super Bowl. And like, okay, what was the Super Bowl? 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead. What was on your mind? Thinking, all right, you want to talk about how the Chiefs fell apart or how the Eagles were not talking enough about them? No. It was about Kendrick Lamar he wanted to talk about and how he and none of his friends understood it and they all hated it, and shame on the NFL. And I had to walk him through it. I'm like, sir, this is not for you.
Yeah.
It's not for you and your friends.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it's not for me either. I mean, it was the Gen X show. Okay, that was for me a couple of years ago. The halftime show is to bring in a different audience. My daughter's 21. You would think like her old man, like doing a sports show, she likes sports. No. But she understands that. So, I was kind of surprised that people kind of didn't get the gist of.
Of two daughters, 20 and 15. And they both are still talking about the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. Still. There are if you scroll through their feeds, the algorithm has it so that there are people doing their little, you know, dances to Kendrick Lamar, their little imitations of it's. you hit it on the head, and you said to him probably what I would say to him, which is, hey, man, it's not for you. It wasn't for you. It wasn't meant for you. You don't have to like it. It's not for you.
Well, he's like, well, I'm not going to watch. I'm like, no, wrong. Don't tell me you're not going to watch the Super Bowl.
You're right.
Like, if you want to go up and get a snack and not watch, sure, but you're going to come right back.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with it. In fact, I enjoyed it because I saw how much my kids enjoyed it. And I kind of like Kendrick Lamar's music. I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. I don't have a problem with it. I'm a different cat. I'm not your average 50-year-old white guy. I like that. I thought it was great. I really, really liked it. And my kids liked it too. They're happy. I'm happy.
Sometimes I got to admit things I didn't know about. Like, oh, wait a second. Kendrick Lamar and Drake had no idea.
Oh, that beef was, I mean, that was part of the catalyst of what propelled his popularity over the last 12 months. He murdered Drake. He murdered Drake. So because he murdered Drake, he gets a spot in the Super Bowl halftime, and he can call Drake a pedophile on national TV on the world's largest stage and get away with it.
Put Serena Williams right up there.
Serena Williams,
why is she there? Oh, okay.
Yep. He's just ruthless. Absolutely ruthless. Conniving. Unbelievable. Still nothing from Indianapolis with Sean McDermott. No surprise there. Before we go to break, you mentioned this might be take of the year worthy.
Well, this is kind of almost like if you're just tuning in, Mike Danger back for like wasn't with us last week, did one show the week before. Josh Allen never says anything controversial. Ever. He's just, and you know what? That's probably what you want out of your quarterback. Just be above board, get guys going, and win the next football game. Something that has happened in last year, Josh Allen got engaged, and Haley Steinfeld, and she's out there, and she has a career. Who knows? She may be making more money than Josh. So she's out there promoting something, and she, in this video shoot, I don't have it right in front of me, so apologies, I can't credit who this came from, was kind of asked, tongue-in-cheek questions. It was a football quiz, Mike Danger.
How many yards is a roughing the passer penalty? 15 yards. Name the 4 teams in the AFC East Division. You got the Buffalo Bills and the Bills' 3 sons.
Ooh.
So immediately, WEEI, the New York Post, anybody that covers an opposing team in the AFC East, hey, guess what? You have to own that. What did she say that was incorrect there?
I kind of like it.
You're going for 6 in a row.
Kind of like it.
I kind of love it, actually. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. You have the Buffalo Bills and their 3 sons.
And the way she does it, too, she's just, she points one and then bam.
Did I also hear the ding when she got the answers right?
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah.
How many yards is a roughing the passer penalty? 15 yards.
Yeah.
Name the 4 teams in the AFC East Division. You got the Buffalo Bills and the Bills' 3 sons.
No, you're going to put the ding on there. Dandalorian edited, they gave her the buzzer on that.
Oh.
Just a, that should be a ding.
Let's take a break. We'll come back.
Is it going in? I don't know if we have anything for Take of the Year.
Do we have anything yet for Take of the Year?
It's only February.
We do have a Take of the Year nominee from January 20th.
Okay, so that was after the Bills-Ravens game. Why can't I remember this? This is only like a month ago.
Danielle, congratulations. That was a roller coaster of a ride.
Australian Open.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, destiny. I was thinking during the match, I was like, if I'm out here, I might as well just take that big fat paycheck. And Coco and I we love a good 5-star vacation. So part of that check is going to go towards that. So thank you guys. Thanks for coming out here and supporting us tonight.
Gino, I'm starting to sense a trend. I think the rest of the world hates us.
You think so?
I think I'm there. I think I'm there now to the point where it's like, okay, got a little self-awareness. Everybody hates us. The boos at the Australian Open, the boos at the Four Nations tournament. Everybody hates us. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I'm like the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody hates us. I don't care.
That was worthy.
Yeah. We'll put Haley in there.
Haley goes in.
Haley goes in. Quick break. We'll come back, check in Indianapolis, see if we get from what we can hear from Sean McDermott, if anything. It was supposed to speak at 4, but maybe he got caught up at St. Elmo's. We'll check in with the NFL Scouting Combine next on The Fan.
You're listening. .950 The Fan, Rochester.
It really is a tradition unlike any other. The NFL Scouting Combine. Sean McDermott tardy for his press availability. Also, athletes showing up but not working out. We're getting the whole list of prospects showing up at the Combine but not working out.
It shouldn't surprise anybody, right? If you are projected to be one of the top 2 quarterbacks, talking about Shadur Sanders, okay, it's fine. Like, nobody's going to get upset that you're not working out. The thing that I found funny, though, was, who's getting killed over this. This was the NFL insider for NFL, Ian Rappaport. just kind of talking. Basically, Shedeur Sanders, like you wonder like who actually wrote this. Colorado quarterback and potential top pick Shedeur Sanders plans to focus on his interviews with teams at the Combine. He'll allow his 4 years of film to speak loudly and then throw at his pro days with 4 draftable Colorado wide receivers.
Yeah.
Oh, did Agent Dion write that?
We need a controlled environment. We need to make sure that your stock doesn't go anything but up. And all that can happen when you go to the Combine and don't show up the way you're expected to show up is your stock goes down. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. And, it's still an event. It's still the biggest gathering of NFL minds. It's the NFL's convention. It's their annual convention.
It is, but not everybody participates. Like the one team from the NFC that could say, hey, they draft really well. Sean McVay doesn't go to this.
Right.
Like you have film, you've gone out, you have your scouts. It's important for the medicals. It's important to put these guys and make sure you're putting them through everything and talking to the doctors and making sure that, hey, you're not drafting damaged goods here.
So if we're gonna, spend part of this week talking about the prospects at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, I don't want to put you on the spot, Gino. Mm-hmm. I don't know that we've talked about this in terms of ranking positional needs for the Buffalo Bills as far as what should they be looking at first and foremost here over the coming weeks leading up to the draft here at the end of April.
Well, that comes with the caveat of, all right, are you going to fill the defensive line through free agency or trade for Myles Garrett and take one of those big swings?
I thought a lot about Myles Garrett while I was off. Myles Garrett crossed my mind quite a bit.
That's all I think about.
Can I say something at this stage of the game?
You're going to the contrarian point of view. I feel this coming.
I just don't think the Bills are going to get him.
Well, for the simple reason that there will be teams that can offer better draft picks. There will be teams that are willing to part with veterans you can use right away. Like the package the Bills can give the Browns probably pales in comparison. So if the Browns are actually, or the only thing is, this is part of it too, and this is the unknown. No, Myles Garrett does not have a no trade clause. But that doesn't mean like Carolina can pick up the phone and trade for Myles Garrett because he's not going to sign anything long term. So Garrett can swing a little bit. He has a little bit of influence in that regard as to where he goes.
So I'm wondering, I hear what you're saying. A lot of what they do in the draft is going to depend on what they do in free agency and whether or not they make that kind of a big swing.
But, okay, so defensive line, number one.
Number one is DL for you?
Yeah, D tackle, D end. Like, you need – who cares that you've already tried this and it didn't work to your liking? You've got to try again. Number two is you've got to get a corner. Like, that showed up in the worst of ways last year that you didn't have anybody behind Christian Benford. Kyrie Lim, you'll move off of. Rasul Douglas, to me, is a toss-up, whether or not the Bills bring him back or not. Honestly, and listening to the Alex Brasky podcast last night was a point I forgot. Like, Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford are really tight. However, don't assume that means that Rasul Douglas is going to take lesser money to stay in Buffalo. This is his last shot at making money in this league on this contract.
Chris Trapasso was on earlier, One Bills Live, some defensive fits for the Buffalo Bills.
But if you're talking position flex, you mentioned one of them. Derek Harmon, my comparison for him is actually Daquan Jones. He's not quite the same body type, but can play 0, can play 1, can play like 5, all the way out.
Okay.
And then TJ Sanders from South Carolina is a name that Bills fans want to familiarize themselves with. Similar body type. He's a little bit smaller, like 6'4", 285, 290, but plays bigger than that.
Okay.
Played a lot in 3-man fronts at South Carolina. Probably a little bit smaller than what the Bills want, but if you want position flex, those two really stand out to me. If you want size, Kenneth Grant and Deion Walker are the two that can just be those 2-down pluggers and be really good specialists in that role.
It's funny, the One Bills Live, that was the first show to set up at the Combine.
Yeah.
Most people are like, this goes, it's ramping up toward the end of the week and the weekend. It's like, hey, Radio Row, the Saturday before the Monday before the Sunday. That's how it kind of feels.
A couple of other prospects Trapasso was high on while in Indianapolis. How about Darius Alexander?
You got to draft the high-caliber athletes that actually are pretty good football players. Maybe not finished products, but the athleticism was through the roof. But there were flashes there. There was that moldable ball of clay to build him into the quarterback that he is today. The one name that I'll say, a defensive tackle that could be that guy, Darius Alexander from Toledo. I don't know if you've watched his film yet,
A little
Chris.
bit, yeah.
He's really a do-everything type of player. He's 24, was in college for a while, but they were having him drop in coverage, rushing off the edge, playing nose tackle. With how much the Bills like to rotate up front, I think Darius Alexander could be that riser after the combine.
Okay. Yeah, to answer your question, D-line, corner, and then wide receiver. I think you need to get somebody in the pipeline.
I was waiting for you to say wide receiver because I actually thought wide receiver should be maybe a little higher up on the list. I know that we keep talking about how the offense averaged 30 points a game last year and that they weren't really the problem. Like when you got down to it, Kansas City scored more points against your defense than they did against anybody else.
But that was last season, and you have to evolve. I kind of understand that a little bit.
Yeah, the idea that there are going to be some wide receivers, some additional reliable targets available for Josh Allen, whether you're talking about Buka from Ohio State, Isaiah Bond from Texas, speed, playmakers. I'm not saying I'm not throwing in the towel on Keon Coleman. I just don't think he's got that kind of skill set.
The best you could hope for is, can Keon Coleman become kind of a A.J. Brown light? Somebody that can go over the middle, you're not worried about it. But, okay, you passed on Xavier Worthy, but can you get a Worthy type of receiver in round 2 this year, perhaps?
Another player to watch, to mark down, Chris Brown. Talking earlier today on One Bills Live about Malachi Starks.
He is about as clean a draft prospect as there is in this draft. Super duper kid. He's a little on the small side, but tremendous ball skills, can come down and cover in the slot, and is great in center field. Most people will consider him the best safety in the class. That's a problem because that means he's probably not available when the Bills are picking at 30. If he gets past pick 20, I would be stunned. For people who are not familiar with Malachi Starks, he reminds me of Micah Hyde, except he's faster and even more athletic.
Dude, like, people are tortured by Xavier Worthy. I'm tortured by Cooper DeJean. Honest to God, Danger. I thought last year, okay, they're going to move down, or Cooper DeJean just take him right here. It was a need.
For me, it was Ladd McConkey. That was the one last year. They was like, you could have taken Ladd McConkey. He was there. He's probably going to have a nice career with the Chargers. But, yeah, what you saw out of DeJean, and for DeJean to score in the Super Bowl, it's like, oh, God. Oh, God. That's just salt in the wound for my guy Gino. Well, it's on. Now we're talking prospects, and the Combine is set to get underway here this week from Indianapolis. Sean McDermott supposedly speaking to the media this afternoon. If we maybe is Indianapolis is Central Time Zone, so maybe that's the mix-up. Maybe
could it be that he just got the time zones wrong? Yeah. That he's showing up at 4 Central.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm on time, guys. Actually, you're an hour late.
Yeah,
Coach.
4 Central. I don't know. We'll get to Sean McDermott when we do eventually hear from him, and maybe we'll get Alex Brasky as well if he's got the free time there from the NFL's convention in Indianapolis, the Scouting Combine. Happy Hour is next. We'll have time for your calls. If you want to pull up a stool, 866-4326 is the phone number. 585-866-4FAN.
WOCAM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott wants to address reporters at 4 o'clock Eastern. We're still waiting out at the Combine in Indianapolis. Chris Brown is out there on One Bills Live today. Brownie wants somebody big in the middle.
Maybe you just need a guy that can be a one that also offers run-stuffing ability. So, I don't know. I'm of the opinion the Bills need a plugger. Who the hell cares if he only plays 2 downs? If you can get him in round 3, put him in there.
Amherst have the best record in the American Hockey League. They're back home Wednesday night against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Sabres coming off a game where they scored 8, back home tomorrow night against Anaheim. Giancarlo Stanton, he's headed back to New York for some testing. Stanton is dealing with tendinitis in both elbows. Cleveland Guardians owner Larry Dolan has died. Dolan was 94. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Here we are. We are.
At the NFL Combine in Indianapolis.
And it is Combine week. Straight up. I want everyone to throw at the Combine.
Talking about quarterbacks throwing at the Combine is the most overrated topic that I've ever hit this airwaves.
The return of Mike Danger.
Tamperfest. Tamperfest. Yeah, Tamperfest in Indianapolis. The Combine. Tamperfest.
Gene Battaglia.
I'm Vanilla Baby.
Your wish list for the Buffalo Bills here this offseason.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell.
I want defensive linemen with arrest records. Mean, bad dudes. I don't want Boy Scouts. We need nasty defensive linemen.
Chuck Muncie has levels to him that I would have never expected.
Let's go Amherst.
Welcome, Juan Soto.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. All right. Do we have Sean McDermott? Yes, we do. We have Sean McDermott live from the NFL Scouting Combine. Let's see if I can dial this up for you here.
Like you said, the word validated. It validates everything that he's been doing for years. It validates his leadership this year, the way he's played on the field this season, the way he's matured off the field, on the field, his decision-making and how that's improved. So all these areas that were perceived, call it gaps, Josh has answered those gaps, and he's closed those gaps. And when you do that at the level that he did it at on a consistent basis, the result was the MVP. And so to me, as I said during the year, later in the year in particular, he deserved that, every bit of that award.
Hey, Sean, you're now the second year of talking about the kickoff award for the last couple of days. Do you see the rationale in a 35-yard touchback, or do you think it's still a little ways away from it?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into where it's at in terms of being approved or not. Just my own opinion on it. We know the obvious thing is you're going to get more potential returns, which I think is good for the game personally. So, you never know when you move things a little bit, even if small tweaks, kind of the residual effects of other, of those tweaks, right? So you're never really sure how the overall game is going to get affected. But I like where and what the kickoff did this year for our game. Do we leave it alone, or do we move it a little bit just to the right or to the left? And so we'll see where that goes.
So you reportedly made a change as special teams coordinator. Could you confirm that you moved out from Matthew Smiley, and what went into that position?
Yeah, I did. I can confirm that. It's a hard business, right? Unfortunate part of the business, but the hard part of my job. And those decisions are hard decisions. And so, I know what I said after the season there. And for me, it's wanting to take my time and go through it and making sure that I fully evaluate the position, but also where we need to go with that position. And so that was the reason for the timing on it. Matthew Smiley is a heck of a person, heck of a coach, and I can't thank him and his family enough.
John, can you also break down the other coaching moves you made?
Yeah. I'll go through some of them. So we added Ryan Nielsen as senior defensive assistant. Ryan's been a coordinator the last 2 stops, one in Jacksonville and then prior to that in Atlanta. Before that, Ryan's expertise as a position coach was really coming up as a defensive line coach in New Orleans in particular, and then some other spots before that. So Ryan's going to help us out on defense overall. His main focus is going to be the defensive line.
What do you like about Tabor?
Well, I've been tracking Tabe's just his career. You guys probably do the same thing. You're coming up around the same age, and you're seeing people who are really good at what they do. Naturally, you keep tabs on them. You become friends through the business, through the profession, and Tabes has been usually tied up, as many of these good veteran coaches are, and so this year, him being out this past season, coming off of his time at Carolina, offered me an opportunity to interview him and spend some time with him, and then make the hire.
What are you kind of looking for to fill that role? What characteristics were you looking for in your special teams?
Well, Elena, I would say probably one that was higher up on my scale was experience, was veteran experience. It's not all that different in terms of hiring Coach Cromer, right? Just in terms of veteran experienced position coach, in this case coordinator, that's had a lot of success. So, when you can get a coach like that, they're hard to come by, number one. And so when you can get your hands on one, I think you got to take the swing, and that's what I decided to do.
What did you see in Mike Pellegrino that made him the right fit for you?
Well, number one, division. We basically swapped with New England and with Coach Booker going there, and then Mike coming here. So happy to have Mike and his family. I think more than anything, one of the things that came across was just really what they've done defensively there, in particular under Coach Belichick on the defensive side, with some of the way that they've shaped their coverage packages, their zone, their man-to-man, and their development of some of those players that they've had in the back end. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that drew me to Mike and spending some time with him, and then also some of the schemes, like I said, as well. So Mike, if you know his background, is a John Hopkins guy, so he's extremely smart, and you can never go wrong hiring smart guys that work hard.
But will his role be, what will his title be, John? Will it be
coach.
Nichols?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Do you anticipate, because of some of the hires you make, we saw a little bit of it at the end of the year, a little more man coverage in your scheme? Are you thinking along those terms as you go forward?
I mean, if that happens, Sal, I would tell you that it would happen organically. It's not. I'm not being intentful about, hey, we got to play man to man and we have to hire these people and play man to man at the end of the year. Versus, I mean, you're probably looking a little bit, some of you guys, too much into that. That was a response to, in particular in that last game, what was happening in terms of the ball coming out a little bit quicker. We're going to do and evolve in the off season how we feel like we need to go and evolve defensively. And I think it's important that you have a vision for what the league is and where offenses are going, and then again how we need to be out in front of that curve.
How much do you change philosophically based on the personnel that you have when you even get to training camp? Even how you set it up, once you see your team and get them out on the grass, how much do you kind of change over the course of time philosophically based on who you have?
Well, you said it all right there, Ryan. It's I believe spring is, I'll lay it like this. Spring is for taking what you've seen on tape in the off season and studied, and basically saying, let's try it out. Let's experiment, right, for lack of a better word. And then from there, you refine it down, sharpen it, and say, this is what we liked. This is what may fit us best based on what we know about our players to this point. And then you go and you basically get yourself to a training camp menu that you're really now trying to build the reps with. But all the while through the course of spring into training camp, but in particular in spring, you're really figuring out who you have and what the strengths of your roster is, especially on defense in this case. And then you're seeing it in a similar way in training camp, but now with full pads on, playing the real game of football, which sometimes can change. You get a little bit of a false impression on someone in shorts and T-shirt, and then you get to the game being played on the field in pads, and you can kind of tweak and adjust from there. So our system is predominantly built around who we have and what they do best.
How do you think Bobby will grow when
You know, I think he's going to grow. How much is really up to him, and he's a Type A personality guy. He's extremely passionate about growing and intense. And I think that when you have those type of qualities, personality-wise, and drive, commitment-wise, dedication, too, it bodes well for a tremendous amount of growth. And so I think that he is going to learn a lot from year one and carry it into year two, and it's only going to help him.
Sean, there's also been reports Eric Ciano's no longer with the organization. Is that the case? And if so, do you have a new special strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah, so again, you know, Coach Ciano gave a lot of years of service, he and his family both, and staples in our community in Orchard Park in particular, and you know, great friends with his family as well. So hard to see him move on. Happy for him that he's landed in Jacksonville, and he's going to do great there. As far as our status and where we're at with our head strength and conditioning position, we are going through interviews right now, but that's really where we're at right now.
I think you've had a lot of success with the coach Bush quarterback sneak. Is it a fair play? Is there an injury risk that is concerning?
To me, there's always been an injury risk with that play, and I've expressed that opinion for the last couple of years or so when it really started to come into play. The way it's being used, especially a year ago. So I just feel like players' safety and the health and safety of our players has to be at the top of our game, which it is. It's just that play to me has always been the way that the techniques that are used with that play to me have been potentially contrary to the health and safety of the players, and so again, you have to go back though in fairness to the injury data on the play, but I just think the optics of it I'm not in love with.
Sean, obviously the performance by the defensive front in Philadelphia's win over Kansas City was widely talked about. We know your feelings about the position, but does it almost even ratchet things up a level to really emphasize the importance that group needs to be for you?
Well, I think it's a philosophical thing more than anything. That's what I believe in. That's as you saw, that's a pretty good copy, carbon copy of what you can do. And give credit to the Eagles, to their players played well and this and that and scheme and this and that. But it's never about one game, and it's not about. It's just overall, generally speaking, you have to when you're in these seats, you have a general philosophy on how you believe the game should be played and how things are built, and so it's really what I came from years ago in Philadelphia, ironically enough, and I've talked about it since we've been here. So it was a heck of a game to watch.
Sean, James Cook has been very outspoken about his upcoming contract status in the media this offseason. Not asking you to get into the weeds there, but do you have any perspective on that in terms of what he's asking for and what the team values James in his position as the starting running back?
Well, I love James. When you're a coach, I'm going to take the business part out of it for a second if I can. When you're a coach and you're on the field with these players and you're in the meetings and you're watching them develop on the field, off the field, he's a great example of one of the joys of that comes with coaching is developing and watching a young man develop in both of those areas, and then to go on the field in this case, this year in particular, and have the success that he experienced and how he helped our team. It's just a great feeling as a coach to watch a young man do what he did, and the business part is going to take care of itself. Brandon, I know, is on top of that, and he will be on top of that moving forward.
Sean, going back to John's question about the defensive line and what the Eagles were able to do and maybe the blueprint for beating that team that you guys are trying to get past in the Chiefs. you mentioned Coach Nielsen and him having a focus on the defensive line. Is that an area that maybe you've identified here after the season as a group that you need to see a collective improvement from up front there?
Well, I don't think you can ever have enough good coaches, in particular at those critical positions. And so when Coach Nielsen came available, again, you look at his career and where he went, and it's hard to get your hands on, and I'll use the defensive line. It's hard to get your hands on really good defensive line coaches, and he has that pedigree. He's had that success at that position. So the short answer on it is it's about acquiring a really good football coach that happens to be a defensive line coach as well, and he'll team with Marcus and Rebs as well in that position. And so, when you can put good coaches around yourself as a head coach, who have been there and done that at a high level, it bodes for good things in the future. And so, techniques, fundamentals, intensity. I'm just talking about the things that, from a coaching standpoint. So, anyway, from a coaching standpoint, those are the pieces that I control, and I'm always trying to add the best possible coaches that I can.
John, I remember last year you talked about how, at some point in the offseason last year, you talked about how imperative it was you needed to get a field stretcher on offense. And a field stretcher as a receiver. Yeah. And really, you really didn't get that guy. You had a lot of guys that were intermediate. Is that a need that you have to address, whether it's free agency or the draft?
Well, without getting too much into strategy and whatnot, I am a believer in that speed, stretching the field. Not just vertically, but horizontally and vertically. I think it just opens up a defense, and so I thought we did that at times. Probably not enough this year, and not just throwing the ball deep. It doesn't always mean that. It means taking a short pass and taking it, and some good rack yards for us in production. So I thought overall we did some good things in that wide receiver room. I really do. Can you always benefit from adding more speed? Absolutely. Yeah.
Just expanding on that, can you talk about the development of Keon Coleman, and then on top of that, just what you think of the wide receiver class this year?
Well, I'll just start with the wide receiver class this year. My exposure is 0.0, and these guys, the local people, know that that's what it is almost every year I come here. Usually, thankfully, because we play later in the year in the playoffs, but also because I like to come in with a blank slate for the most part and then make my own evaluation and opinion on the player. As far as Keon goes, I thought he had an up and down first season. I really do. And I mentioned that after the year. I thought he got off to a start that he built momentum through, and then he got injured. And then from there on, it was rather rocky, I would say. And we're looking for him to learn from those moments of adversity and come back and have a really, really, really strong off season and get himself going into the start of season 2 here.
When you have a conversation with a very young player like that, him in particular, who seems to have a lot of positive energy around him, how did he respond to that kind of evaluation?
I mean, he's a good young man that just as most young players don't always know what they don't know about the league and how hard this league is, and so it's more constructive style conversation and topics with how we can move forward together and what you have to do, the process between now and the start of the off-season program in March and April. So that's really what it's about, and until you've gone through it, you haven't gone through it. And so just trying to build awareness of what you need to do. There's a lot of people who come in and have a good first year, and then another rookie at the same position doesn't have the same level of success. And then what you find, and it's kind of human nature, is the person who had great success that first season kind of relaxes a little bit and downshifts, thinking that they understand how this league works. And it's actually the player that didn't play much in the first year comes and has a better second year than the first player does. And it's just a weird dynamic to me, but it really makes sense when you think about it. Like, you have to stay urgent. You have to stay on the gas. or this league will eat you up, whether you're a player, a coach, whatever it is. And that takes a certain type of person with a certain drive and determination and fire in their heart. And it's going to be Keon's turn to show that he has that this offseason.
Sean, Ben for concussions. Has he been cleared?
Yes, he's been cleared. He left. Don't quote me on this, Ryan, but I think within a week after the season ended, he was cleared to go. Yeah.
Sean, Tommy Doyle announced his retirement. I know that he hasn't played, unfortunately, the last couple of years, but you had him around a lot, and he was with the guys. Can you just kind of take us into your relationship with him and watching him and unfortunately having to call it quits?
Yeah, you're getting into now some personal stories, right? Just if a movie could be made about Tommy Doyle, there needs to be a movie made. Just because of what I'm saying is, you see these personal interest stories that pop up on shows, and before, watching the USA play Canada the other night, and these personal interest stories that are popping up about the players on each team and the stories. And it's just, to me, fascinating to listen to the journey of how these players get to where they're at. Tommy, no different, right? Comes in, drafted where he was drafted, and gets off to a really, really good start, and then experiences what he went through. And then that journey, that next chapter of his life and his career began. And to watch him handle that in the way that he handled that, not only did it inspire me, it inspired everybody in our building. And to watch a young man grow in his faith in God through the course of that, to me is, again, the NFL is hard. The NFL, I understand, is about results, but it's awesome to see when a young man is able to handle an adverse situation and really come out of it. I don't want to say in a better spot, but darn it, man, he is going to be successful at whatever he does. He's a winner.
You talked about the years you played that maybe take a step back. Do you feel like Dalton Cate falls into that category, or is it mostly about health?
I would say, in my opinion, as I sit here right now, I feel like it's mostly about health. Now, are there some things he can do as well that he needs to do to continue to do this? Yes, and he's very aware of those things. And the thing about Dalton that I want to make sure everybody understands is he is as serious about football and his improvement as anybody on our football team. He loves the game. He loves to compete, and some of the way he plays is a reflection of his competitiveness. Right? He's not a big tight end, but he plays like a big tight end, and within that, he's been hurt a little bit in year one and then again in year two. So the most important thing that we need to do, and we need to help him with, and he needs to do as well, and taking the lead on this, is getting stronger and more durable for us to be out there even more. So I don't question his ability. It's just, can he get strong enough from a play strength standpoint to help us every week of the season, and in particular in the playoffs when we need him the most.
Sean, was that a conversation that was had after his rookie year, or was it something that you came to that realization more as year two went on that he needed to do that?
In terms of after year two, you mean this past off season, Jay? Or
the idea of needing to add strength to increase durability, it seems like maybe that would have been a conversation after his rookie year going into year two. So my question is, was that conversation had at that point, or did it become a realization in year two that you maybe needed to do that?
No, I think the awareness was there both years. It's just a matter of, hey, how soon do you develop some of that, and then how, when you're able to stay healthy enough too, that they kind of go hand in hand a little bit, right? Stronger, more success, potentially more durable, all that stuff. It works together. So that awareness was coming after year one. But I would say when you're just after year one, he had such an incredible year after year one. It was still there, but probably when you go into the second year and then he experiences another injury, right, or two. Now it's starting to add up. Hey, we gotta find a solution to this for sure, right? Because it's not, going from year one to year two, probably didn't get to where we had hoped he would get to from a strength and durability standpoint. But now 2 years in a row, you start to build. It's starting to become a tendency and a pattern. So we got to get this thing stopped.
John, where is Terrell Bernard in his development and the captain this year? Few less splash plays than the year before. Where is he
in the development? Where's he going?
Well, I would say that, TB is to first and foremost get a C on your chest when there's only 2 given out. And your third season as a pro, I think really speaks volumes about who he is and how his teammates view him. So that's number 1. 2 is his play. I think at some point he turned a corner and started to make some of those splash plays again. And I think it was maybe, don't quote me on this, mid to mid-plus point of the season where he was starting to get some of those same plays. And I think what happened a little bit was early on, coming off of a really good year 2, maybe trying to do a little bit too much at times, right? And that sometimes happens also when you get the C on your chest of, hey, you're good here, you're good there, and all of a sudden, oh wait, hang on, I got to make sure I'm locking down my part as well. So we had conversations about that after the season, right? With, hey, leadership comes in a lot of different forms, but first of all, you start by leading yourself. And he had great intentions all the way through the year. It was just, hey, let me understand this role of a captain, and then now my play starts to pick back up again. And I think we saw that towards the end of the year, in particular when that Baltimore game stands out.
You signed Shane. You gave Mike White the extension. Mitch is still around. How do you see the quarterback position beyond Josh Allen as you dive into the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, we got 4 guys in there, and I played quarterback in high school. I'm thinking I may try it a little bit too, wing T, right? But why not? We got add a 5th. That's right, option. We can go either way with it. Although the wingback said I never pitched it, but I remember once or twice I pitched it to him. But no, we've got a really good group in there. It's a fun group. They work well together, and that's huge for Josh and Josh's continued growth. And you want to be happy when you're coming to work every day, driving down that driveway at One Bills, and when you like who you're going into the room with, that's a big piece. Now, having said all that, you got to be able to play and get the job done as well. And I think that'll be, I know, that's going to be a very intentional part of our off season, part of our spring, part of training camp. To see, hey, when you get in the game, what does it look like, and how good can we be at that position?
Sean, this is your.
Yeah, love Vaughn. I mean, I thought, Vaughn. I think people sometimes forget. Came in and had success early, and then he went through the knee situation. And the thing I love about Vaughn is he very rarely, if ever, used kind of the victim role approach. He always was, hey, I'm coming back. I'm going to be back. I'm working on it. Mentally, he's just so elite with his mental. To come off of a knee injury, in particular when you're 30-plus, is a challenge. And I thought this year was a lot better than the year before, and that's really what you want to see.
He only had 16 snaps against Kansas City. Were you trying to maximize his pass rush snaps there? It was a low number.
Yeah, it was low. Ideally you can get him into third down, and I didn't think we won enough first downs or second downs, early downs, to get him into third down or third and long enough, mark in that capacity. So sometimes those go hand in hand, and ultimately it's also a role feeling the game on the sideline too. And hey, we're not getting into a lot of third downs, so let's get Vaughn some work on first and second. So those go hand in hand as well.
Sean, this will be your 8th draft with Brandon. How have you, over the years, fine-tuned that relationship in this time of year to pair his vision with the evaluation with your vision on the field once you draft a player?
Give me that again.
How have you been able to kind of streamline the process of matching his evaluation and his team's evaluation with your plan for once they're in
terms of what philosophically,
just getting them in a position to contribute right away?
You talking about first-year players, or? Well, I think this year, and I know it's talked about every year, but we play the players that are good enough to play. Like, we have no agenda on, hey, this player, because he was drafted in this round, must play over the undrafted player. And I think Joe Andreessen's a great example of that, right? I'm just not a big believer in that, and I know Brandon isn't either. It's the players that are ready to play, they play. And the players that are in the jobs are usually the ones that are ready to play the most, and they do the best in the preseason. Now, as I've said before, there's a little bit of, hey, feet in the ground, a little bit of roots, a little bit of foundation for those that started the year before. So it's going to take a little bit more to beat those players out. But really, and I learned this from Brian Dawkins years ago in Philadelphia, when you go to camp, when you go to training camp, every player's goal should be, I'm making the team. And even if you're an all-pro, like Brian Dawkins and Hall of Famer, it's make the team, and it's got to be earned. And so when a player like that takes that approach, I think all of us, coaches included, can take that approach.
Great transition from Brian Dawkins. I was just going to ask you about safeties. And you got Cole Bishop, who got his feet wet. Tomorrow's a free agent. Taylor obviously was hurt at the end of the year. How do you assess that position, and is Cole maybe ready to step up into a bigger role this year?
Well, I think we'll see, honestly. You never really know, but it's important. When you draft players, that they come in and they play, whether it's year one, year two, whatever. Usually there's if you haven't played by the end of training camp at year 3, something could be going on, right? So I think in Cole's situation, we'll be counting on him to have an impact on our defense. One of the biggest challenges that he went through last year was the injury during training camp, I believe it was, or a lot of training camp. And then he got behind, quite frankly. And so I think more than anything, it's what is he, similar to Dalton, similar to a lot of the players going from year one to year 2, what does he come back looking like, right? Does he come back looking like he just busted his tail when in the time when he was away from us and he was a madman and getting himself ready to go and to really kick some tail out there, and he has a mastery of the defense and he's coming back and now he's not thinking he's just playing. We'll know. I mean, we'll know. It doesn't take long to know when a guy walks back in the building if he's worked or not. I have a lot of confidence Cole's wired the way that he will be a player that will put in the time and work. But again, you really don't know until the player comes back. So I'm not going to sit here and make guarantees he's going to do this or that. At the end of the day, he's going to have a chance to win the job. And, that's when you draft a player where we drafted him. You want him to win that job. But he's got to do it. We can't do it for him.
All right, there's Sean McDermott. I'm going to cut him off here. I know that he's gone on for about a half an hour or so, live from Indianapolis here in the NFL Scouting Combine. We have to take a break because we're up against it. But good hearing from Coach McDermott. There are some takeaways that I'm sure we can get into next.
Oh, there's one player that we got to talk about here that, like, whoa, normally, especially this time of year, everything is awesome. No, there's one player I think that Sean McDermott there kind of put on notice.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with some more reaction to Sean McDermott's comments at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
update.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott just wrapping up comments today at the Combine. McDermott says he thought Keon Coleman had an up-and-down rookie season, calling it rocky. Meanwhile, Chris DePasso today on One Bills Live, really high on Kenneth Grant.
The Bills like to have that complementary defensive tackle group. Kenneth Grant from Michigan, 6'3", like 330, but he gets up the field like he's closer to 300 pounds and is still a quality run defender. If he tests just all right, he could be there at 30 for the Bills or within striking distance. That would be the perfect plug-in next to Ed Oliver.
Rochester Americans tearing through the American Hockey League, still with the best record in the league. Back home Wednesday night against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Sabres home tomorrow against Anaheim. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Epic victories, heartbreaking defeats. No matter your team, no matter your game, we talk sports. The Fan Rochester.
All right, happy hour continues on The Fan. Thanks for joining us in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're with us. 866-4326 is our phone number if you want to have the final say for last call here. As we're reacting to Sean McDermott. Just got done speaking in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. I don't know if we learned anything new, but I also feel like with one player specifically, there was an additional emphasis on the inconsistencies of his rookie year, and that's Keon Coleman.
Well, it's interesting because there's other rookies, right? Did Cole Bishop have a good rookie season? No. Did Carter? Well, up until he got hurt. Keon Coleman came up with some big plays this year, Danger. Had a few two-point conversions, nice touchdown against Houston Texans. Gets hurt, okay, and comes back. It was a wrist injury, I believe, against the Dolphins. To hear him say Rocky and talk about, pivoting to doing what you need to do as a pro and how when your first year might be going good, you come back second year. I just thought it was interesting that at this time of year, that was the message that you're putting out there about Keon Coleman. It's almost like he's talking to Coleman directly using the media right now, just laying his expectations out as to what he wants to see this offseason.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason for Keon Coleman. I think that's one of the more intriguing players to watch when we get to St. John Fisher later in the summer. What kind of a response does he have after an up-and-down rookie season? Because we certainly saw moments where it's like, okay, he could be that guy. I don't know that he's going to be a field stretcher, and you also heard Sean McDermott talk about the idea that we need some speed. We want that speed to not just stretch the field vertically, but also horizontally. You don't really have that really, really fast guy. But back to Coleman, to hear just how he was kind of described in his rookie year, I don't know. I mean, I imagine a lot of head coaches don't like their wide receiver room because they could be divas or they could be a challenge. Coleman feels different to me than what you have in Mac Hollins or what you have in Khalil Shakir. He's got that. I don't want to call him a diva. I'm not saying he's that, but there is, I think, with Coleman, a personality that goes with the player that might not rub the head coach the right way.
I don't know if it's that. I think it's you're going to put in the work. And again, hey, we're not there all the time, but who was the one player that actually was disciplined this year? It was Keon Coleman. Like legitimately, you didn't need him. It was a week 3 game against the Jaguars. We barely noticed it because you whomped on him.
Yeah.
So
I love Abrasky also asking directly about James Cook. And you heard Sean McDermott talk about, not answer the question directly as far as like what do you make of the demands, because his quote is the business side will take care of the business side.
It's not Sean McDermott's place. It's not his job.
That's right.
Yeah.
But to hear him speak of the development of James Cook, and I'm going to try and relate this to Keon Coleman as well. I mean, we're not too far removed from James Cook kind of getting benched for dropping passes or missing series of plays for not being the player that they wanted to be.
Checks notes. 16 months.
Yeah.
That was the Monday night game against Denver. James Cook, your best running back, benched because he fumbled.
Right.
So Yeah, this could be just McDermott tough love, so to speak.
I think that's kind of what it is when we talk about his words towards Keon Coleman. The hope is that Keon Coleman responds in the way that makes the coach believe that in a couple of years he'll be speaking glowingly about him the way he is about James Cook, and everybody gets paid.
There was another nugget in there, too. And again, he's not going to talk about strategy, but look, we can connect the stories, right? I think it's fair. The Bills making a change at strength and conditioning coach. And that was and the coach that was here, he found a job in Jacksonville, and good for him. And when McDermott kind of heaps on the praise, you always wonder, all right, what's really at stake? But then later on, when talking about Dalton Kincaid and saying, hey, we might have let him down too? Huh? What are you talking about, coaching? What are you talking about? Oh, okay. It's clear what he wants to see out of Dalton Kincaid. He needs to get his ass into the gym and put whatever regimen is on him. Right. He needs to be bigger, stronger. You want to be a tight end in this league, you got to bulk up. So I think that was very clear what McDermott wants out of his third-year tight end.
You've been healthy and you've had good size, but it's not enough. You need more size. You need more strength, more conditioning. So we'll see if the Bills remain healthy. I mean, let's face it. For the most part, they've been blessed by good health, especially on that offensive line. So
yes, but honestly, Danger, like it showed up in the worst time. Like would the Bills? I'm going to say no. Okay, would they have won that game if Christian Benford was healthy? We'll never know. But that was a big factor, I thought, Benford going out early after getting concussed. They need to hit on this. And one thing from One Bills Live today talking about Chris Brown, like the depth here, when Chris Trapasso was talking with Brownie about the depth at defense in this draft. Danger, you could do what the Chiefs did a couple of years ago and just go again and again and again on the side of the ball there. And knowing what Sean McDermott likes in a team, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this was a defensive-heavy draft.
Chris Trapasso earlier on One Bills Live talking about defensive fits for the Buffalo Bills.
But if you're talking position flex, you mentioned one of them. Derek Harmon, my comparison for him is actually Daquan Jones. He's not quite the same body type, but can play 0, can play 1, can play 5 all the way out.
Okay.
And then TJ Sanders from South Carolina is a name that Bills fans want to familiarize themselves with. Similar body type. He's a little bit smaller, like 6'4", 285, 290, but plays bigger than that.
Okay.
Played a lot in 3-man fronts at South Carolina. Probably a little bit smaller than what the Bills want, but if you want position flex, those two really stand out to me. If you want size, Kenneth Grant and Deion Walker are the two that can just be those 2-down pluggers and be really good specialists in that role.
Also thought it was interesting, Sean McDermott admitting that coming into this week in Indianapolis, he has 0.0% knowledge on the wide receiving position group. Now, I don't know if I believe that entirely.
I'm going to say that's a lie.
Ooh.
It's the ultimate stiff arm, right? Because you give a glowing comment or you give something less. He doesn't want to put anything out there. And by the way, it's not his job. He doesn't get to make the pick. He gets input. Gets a lot of input. Gets more input than anybody, but he's not the decision maker. But to say he has 0.0.
I want to come in with a blank slate. I want to be able to make my decision based on what I see this week or who I talk to this week.
Therefore, every position 0.0 you would have on that?
Yeah. Well, good hearing from the coach. Tomorrow, Brandon Beane speaks from the NFL Scouting Combine.
2:00 tomorrow for Brandon Beane. And look, I just find it funny that Sean McDermott 4:00, and then it ends up being 5, and then we're looking, wait a second, is there a time change? Thanks to Chris and others pointing this out. No. At this time of year, Indianapolis is in the Eastern time zone. So.
Okay, so he was an hour late for his media availability.
Yeah.
It was nice of him to make us wait. Appreciate that.
Dr. McDermott.
If you missed Joe Yerdon from Noted Hockey, he joined us in the 3:00 hour this afternoon in the Sports Bar with Danger Battaglia. Talked some NHL, talked some Four Nations, talked some Buffalo Sabres and some Rochester Americans. Fun hockey conversation with our buddy and noted jerk Joe Yerdon from Noted Hockey and Bleacher Report. You can find that conversation wherever you get your podcasts, and that includes the free-to-download Odyssey app. That's AUDACY. And if you missed the Sean McDermott press conference or any of the show, you can go back and listen in the Odyssey app. with chapters and rewind. Just, search us out, Sports Bar, The Fan Rochester. You get all of our work right there for you. Thanks for watching on the YouTube stream as well. Our channel on YouTube, The Fan Rochester. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. We love engaging with you there. We didn't get Dabrowski today. We'll try to get him maybe later on this week. Tomorrow, another fun show for you here in the Sports Bar. As we check in from Indianapolis with our buddy Matt Perino, the Syracuse Post-Standard, asking Sean McDermott some questions today. He'll have some questions for Brandon Beane tomorrow as well. And the AHL leading Rochester Americans head coach, Michael Leone, stops by the Sports Bar for his usual Tuesday afternoon visit at 4:25. Looking forward to that as well. All right, that's it for this afternoon. JR Sport Brief next. Enjoy your night. Talk to you again tomorrow afternoon at 3 on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
If you need a winter warm-up, go to Market View Liquor for the best selection, price.